The events in this program are inspired by a true story. Names, dates, and details have been changed. Viewer discretion is advised. On this episode of Bizarre Murders, when a young woman suddenly falls into a coma, doctors at first are mystified. But when they find a rare and life-threatening toxin in her system, they get suspicious. And when detectives discover evidence of an enemy close to home, they realize they're not looking for some common criminal, but someone far more terrifying. Three days ago, Jennifer admitted herself to the hospital.
Just been having a lot of trouble breathing.
Within a day, she'd fallen into a coma. Jennifer's nervous system is shutting down, and the doctors don't know why.
It'll be okay, baby.
Jennifer's live-in boyfriend, Tyler, never leaves her side. As Jennifer's body shuts down, doctors make an unexpected discovery. She's ingested a toxin that occurs naturally in a highly poisonous plant called hemlock.
You might have heard of hemlock. It's a pretty plant, but you don't want it in a bouquet. It's seriously toxic. The Greek philosopher Socrates famously committed suicide by drinking a potion made from the stuff. And boy, is it an awful way to go. Paralysis sets in, and you can feel yourself suffocating, but you can't do anything about it. It's brutal.
And it gets worse. There's no antidote to hemlock poisoning. Even a small dose, less than 1/10 of a gram, can be fatal. Jennifer's ingested twice that. It's only a matter of time before Jennifer stops being able to breathe altogether.
Considering the huge dose of hemlock in Jennifer's system, you don't have to be Sherlock Holmes to figure out that she's consumed something that was deliberately laced with the hemlock toxin. As a cop, that ain't something you see every day.
Lead Detective Findlay learns that Jennifer was at home the day before she went to the hospital. Since the effects of hemlock toxin usually take 24 hours to kick in, she most likely ate or drank something laced with the poison at her apartment.
There's an old movie called DOA that begins with a man reporting a murder. The cops ask him who got killed. I did, he says. He just found out someone had fatally poisoned him. And that's what we have here. But in this case, Jennifer can't give us any clues as to who might have done this to her or why. She's what we call a silent witness.
Lab results reveal that a bottle of milk found in the fridge contains the residue of hemlock powder. For Detective Findlay, this is now a case of attempted murder.
Getting the hemlock into a sealed bottle without making it look tampered with is harder than it looks. It's like not leaving tracks in the mud. It's pretty tricky. But whoever did this knew what they were doing.
6 days after admitting herself to hospital, Jennifer dies. It's no longer attempted murder. It's now a homicide investigation.
Whoever poisoned that milk must have known someone was in for a slow and painful death. But who done it and why done it are anyone's guess. A deadly prank at the bottling plant? Nah, it's not likely. Quality control would have caught that. A demented milkman? Maybe. But the first person we always talk to is the last person to have seen the victim.
Tell me about you and Jenny. Were you having any issues?
No, things were great. Really great, man. Okay, maybe we were arguing some about money. Jenny was paying the rent, but it didn't matter. We loved each other.
Hey, babe. What are you doing? Oh my God.
Babe, will you make me the happiest man alive?
Yes, 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 yes!
So according to Tyler, things were pretty hunky-dory between him and Jennifer. But think about it. Jennifer was poisoned when she drank milk from her own fridge. And milk has a shelf life, so the poisoning had to be timed properly. Tyler lived with her. He knew when the milk got delivered. In the murder game, that's what we call opportunity. And Tyler himself didn't get sick, which suggests he knew not to touch that milk.
Look familiar? The hemlock the doctors told you about? It was found in the milk in your fridge.
Jeez, well, how did it get in there?
Surprising your suspect, maybe with a photograph or some information. It's an old trick, and it's a good one. As every poker player knows, we all have a tell. It's not proof of anything, but it can scare the hell out of a guilty suspect. And that's a good thing.
Things aren't looking good for Tyler. But if he did poison Jennifer, Detective Findlay needs some hard evidence to connect him to the crime. Without that, she's forced to let him go. For now. Jennifer's apartment is now a crime scene. While looking for evidence that could tie Tyler directly to the poisoning, investigators find something unusual.
Looks like someone's been sending death threats to these two harmless kids from the sticks, telling them it's either time to move out or get rubbed out. And now Jenny's dead. It's hard to know if it's all some practical joke gone seriously wrong or if it's something downright evil. Could these letters hold the key to tracking down a killer?
Recognize any of these?
Yeah, those things. We got one every month for a year.
Why didn't you mention the letters before now?
Jeez, I don't know, we just figured it was some sort of prank, like some big city thing. We collected them for fun, but we didn't get one this month, so we threw them in the trash. And I guess I forgot about them.
Did Jennifer have any enemies? Old boyfriends that stalked her?
No, I'm the only guy she's ever dated.
The forensics lab finds something significant: trace amounts of hemlock and microscopic amounts of other toxins, all derived from plants: deadly nightshade, snakeroot, wolfsbane.
The letters cast doubt on Tyler as a suspect. Sure, he had the opportunity, but whoever poisoned the milk and wrote those letters is someone with an education in botany, and Tyler isn't exactly the academic type. Then there's lack of motive. He just popped a question. And investigators also learned that they have no life insurance. After jealousy, that's the most common motive for murder among couples. As a suspect, Tyler's starting to take a back seat.
The letters are addressed to Jennifer and Tyler, so whoever wrote them knew who they were. And they'd been hand-delivered, not mailed. That means it was someone who had access to the apartment building. Detective Findlay thinks the letter writer could be another tenant.
Any issues with the neighbors? Noise complaints, that kind of thing?
No, never. We said hi to people in the building, but mostly just kept to ourselves.
It's an oldie but a goodie, perps returning to the scene of the crime. But what if they never left? If Jennifer's killer is a neighbor, chances are that person is right under Findlay's nose. In other words, it's time to start knocking on doors.
There are over 100 tenants in the building.
Yes, I'm Detective Findlay. I'm investigating an issue with contaminated milk in the building.
To avoid causing a panic, Findlay says she's investigating contaminated milk deliveries, not murder.
I'm Detective Findlay.
And she casually drops the word hemlock while she questions the tenants.
Have you ever heard of the plant hemlock?
Yeah, it's legal in California, I think, right?
Detectives have canvassed the entire building, but so far haven't come up with any new leads. No one else has fallen sick, and most people in the building have never even heard of a poison plant called hemlock. But when Detective Findlay reviews her notes, she remembers something a tenant said to her that didn't seem significant at the time.
Hello.
Hello?
I'm investigating an issue with contaminated milk in the building.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of the plant hemlock?
No, I have not heard of hemlock, but contaminated milk, that's no joke, Detective. Is there anything else I can do for you?
No. Thank you.
You're most welcome.
The phrase, "no joke," rings a bell with Detective Findlay. As it happens, the tenant's apartment is next door to Tyler and Jennifer's. His name is Charles, and he's lived in the building for 15 years.
Sure, it could be a coincidence that the guy right next door used the same words as the death threat. But if it isn't some fluke, talk about fearing thy neighbor.
Detective Findlay runs a background check on Charles. It turns out, Charles has a criminal record.
Looks like back in college days, Charles liked to earn while he learned. He got tossed out for growing marijuana plants in his dorm room and did a stint in the big house for it. His major? An advanced degree in botany. So chances are pretty doggone good that he knows what hemlock is. This Charles fella is looking like a mighty good suspect, if you ask me.
After prison, Charles reinvented himself as a rare book dealer who also invented a role-playing game called Solution,
Yes.
where players have to solve murder mystery scenarios that Charles writes.
Scenario 21. The Beethoven solution. Bum, 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 bum.
A botany background, a criminal record, the no joke phrase, not to mention that he lives right next door. It's all pretty fishy. The thing is, investigators don't have any evidence at all tying him to Jennifer's murder. If he is their guy, what they need is for Charles to incriminate himself, and that means staking him out.
Detective Findlay's plan is simple. Posing as someone who's inherited a rare book collection. She'll befriend Charles and hopefully get him to trust her.
If this Charles character is the killer, Findlay hopes he'll let something slip and she can nail him for Jennifer's murder. But right now, he's just a long-shot suspect. Is the detective on a wild goose chase? Or is she stepping into the lion's den?
Hi.
Hi, I'm Phoebe. I emailed you about this book.
Yes. It's a pleasure to meet you, Phoebe. Do you know what you have here? This is a treasure.
My father had an awful lot of books.
Well, I'm impressed. It would be a great pleasure to see the rest of your collection.
Now that Detective Findlay's made initial contact with Charles, she can play out her undercover role and hopefully observe him up close.
Cheers.
Getting your foot in the door is certainly the toughest part of going undercover. If they don't trust you in the beginning, they never will. And if you do get in, believe me, you're usually not hanging out with a brain trust right away. But Charles is a different kind of target. He's smart, he's cultured. It's hard to put the whammy on a guy like Charles, and that could make things tricky for Detective Findlay.
What's that?
Well, I present to you solution.
It doesn't take long for Detective Findlay to insert herself into Charles's life.
A natural 20 on your first time.
She even starts playing Charles's game Solution with him, all the while keeping her ears and eyes alert for anything suspicious.
You know, it's so hard to find good company, Phoebe. I can't relate to riffraff, and I don't want to. I'm not afraid to admit it. I feel like I am, well, some people are just beneath us. I mean, wouldn't you agree that the world would just be better off without some people, without most people, really?
Yes.
Not you and I, come on.
Charles ain't exactly a team player, is he? Turns out his brains have, well, gone to his head over the years. He's a total snob and proud of it, too. But having a superiority complex does not make you a murderer. And Findlay has no idea if he even had Jennifer and Tyler on his radar. After all, people like them are, in his own words, just riffraff.
People are just such ignorant apes.
But to Findlay, there's something hinky about Chuck. She can't put her finger on it, but that old detective's sixth sense starts working overtime.
Weeks go by, but not once does Charles mention anything about Jennifer. Detective Findlay starts to wonder if she's been investigating the wrong person all this time. And the brass is giving her the gears. If Findlay doesn't come up with something concrete tying Charles to Jennifer's murder, her undercover operation will be shut down.
You are obviously a very intelligent woman, Phoebe, but, well, let's see if you're smart enough to figure out this one.
Let's.
I call this the Socrates connection, inspired by a true story from ancient Greece. A man is found dead with a hemlock potion beside the body.
Oh,
Is it suicide or murder?
Charles. How clever.
If Charles's past as a failed botanist made Findlay suspicious, this clinches it. Charles knows what hemlock is and what it can do. It can't be a coincidence. Detective Findlay now has to wonder if her cover is blown.
This is what you call a catch-22. If Chuck is on to Detective Findlay, there's no way he'll incriminate himself now. But if she drops the undercover act, she won't have any evidence to connect him to Jennifer. And that Socrates reference could be one of those hints I like to call a not-so-veiled threat. Keep your powder dry, Detective.
Charles has lied about knowing what hemlock is, But Detective Findlay has no motive and no evidence that either links him to Jennifer's murder or rules him out.
Is it suicide or murder?
With the plug about to be pulled on her undercover operation, Detective Findlay decides to try a different tactic.
Hi, Tyler. Tomorrow night, 9 p.m. And remember, make it loud.
This is remarkable. Your father must have really cared about his collection.
Are your neighbors always so loud? I haven't heard them before.
Those bumpkins? Not lately, no. I went next door and asked them to turn it down, told them they were being rude, and well, they desisted. But I suppose they couldn't live without their crude rock music for long.
Getting Tyler to blast that music was some nice sleight of hand, Detective. Looks like Charles just slipped up. Remember, Tyler told investigators that no one had ever complained about their music, but Charles said he had complained. I guess he needed to explain why Findlay had never heard loud music before. Now she knows that Charles was aware of Jennifer and Tyler, even if they weren't aware of him.
They're such ignoramuses.
And he obviously doesn't like them. Not one bit.
Are you going someplace, Charles?
Oh. Yes, I'm off to Italy. There's a book fair there. And besides, I need to get away from that, from them. If they would just leave me be and disappear so I could live my life in peace, that's all I ask. But I digress. Would you be so kind as to water my plants while I'm away?
Of course. Anything.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
It's the perfect opportunity. When Charles is out of town, Detective Findlay can sweep his apartment for possible evidence.
No pun intended, but that's one spine-chilling book collection. It may not be proof positive that Charles is a killer, but it doesn't have to be. For Detective Findlay, it's just one coincidence too many.
When Detective Findlay searches Charles's storage locker, she finds dozens of toxic botanicals, including a huge stash of hemlock plants.
Charles lied about not knowing what hemlock is. He lied about complaining to Tyler and Jennifer about the noise. His remark about contaminated milk being no joke. The Socrates game scenario that involved hemlock. His obvious contempt for Tyler and Jennifer. And now some bedtime reading that's guaranteed to put you to sleep permanently.
Investigators now have hard evidence that connects Charles to the poison that killed Jennifer. But what they don't have is means and motive. Charles's journals reveal that Jennifer and Tyler had unknowingly annoyed and offended him ever since they'd moved in. Imbecile.
I can't live like this.
He spied on his new neighbors, listening to them through the wall. At first, he complains to himself about their music, their working-class jobs, their hayseed accents. As Charles grows more enraged and obsessed with Jennifer and Tyler, a plan forms in his mind.
Charles thinks Jennifer and Tyler are way beneath him. The problem is, they're right next door. In Charlie's unhinged mind, the neighbors have to go, one way or another. Now, normally you'd just bang on the wall and tell him to shut up. But Charles ain't the confrontational type, and shut up probably isn't in his vocabulary. He has his own way of doing things.
The journals reveal just how Charles got the hemlock into the milk. He even boasts of the plan's simplicity. Who would suspect an innocent bottle of milk could be fatal? The dates in the journals also explain why Tyler didn't get sick. The day Charles poisoned the milk, Tyler was playing a gig.
What are you doing here?
Remember me?
Charles is charged with premeditated murder. His lawyer tries to paint his client as a quiet, cultured man with an eccentric interest in dangerous botanicals.
Imbeciles.
Charles gets life without parole.
Some people are smarter than others, that's a fact. And some people think they're smarter than others. Then there are people who think they're smarter than the police. And that is a big mistake, but it's a common mistake. What's not so common is murdering somebody with a rare toxin like hemlock and thinking you'll get away with it. Here's some advice for the Charlies of the world. If you're going to spike someone, don't use something that only you would know about, because that kind of narrows things down. Better yet, don't poison anyone at all. And if your neighbors are getting on your nerves, call the super.
The events in this program are inspired by a true story. Names, dates, and details have been changed. Viewer discretion is advised. On this episode of Bizarre Murders,
That'll be $3, please.
a young woman dreams of a fairy tale life
Baby.
and does everything in her power to conceive it. But when a grisly discovery is made in her gelato shop,
What the?
her dreams of happily ever after
Get out!
Jesus.
are shattered forever.
Can you take me to the border?
Brooklyn, New York, 2000. Vera is an ambitious young woman who works full-time at a daycare
Hi, how are you?
and part-time at an old-fashioned ice cream shop, satisfying both her love for children and ice cream.
Sure.
She dreams of falling in love with a handsome prince, building that white picket fence, and having lots of babies.
That'll be $3, please. You're so lucky. Thank you.
Scott is a regular patron of the ice cream parlor.
On the house.
Thank you.
He's an entrepreneur who's launching his own e-zine, and he has a soft spot for Vera. He drops by every day after dinner for his regular double scoop of mint chocolate chip on a sugar cone.
You look really nice.
Thank you.
Scott sweet talks Vera,
I brought you something.
You did?
showering her with gifts and compliments.
God. Oh, they're beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Scott visits Vera every day
I can't imagine my life without you.
until just 1 month after they meet.
Will you marry me?
Yes.
Throughout my career, I've had the opportunity to meet a lot of different folks. And what I've found out is that when people are so focused on some idyllic fairy tale life, they tend to overlook a lot of things like A, do they really know each other? And B, do they really know each other? I mean, these two young bucks are so in love with the idea of being in love. They have no problems getting hitched a mere month after meeting. So I'm asking you, is this a match made in heaven or a recipe for disaster?
Soon after their wedding, Vera and Scott focus on having a family. But after months of trying, they're still not pregnant. Vera has been vegetarian for years, but in an attempt to eat healthier and improve her chances of conceiving, she decides to make the final leap and become vegan.
For those of you not in the know, vegan basically means no animal products, which also means no dairy. This could prove problematic for a woman who serves ice cream for a living, kind of like an alcoholic working in a liquor store. What could go wrong?
Her newfound veganism means Vera can no longer indulge in her favorite pick-me-up.
Hey.
Hi.
In an attempt to cheer her up, Scott plies her with presents.
Chocolate.
Scott. Chocolate has dairy in it.
It's Swiss.
But Scott is determined to be Vera's knight in shining armor.
Hey.
And presents her with a brilliant business plan. Scott tells Vera that he'll forego his e-zine venture.
What?
And instead use his money to set up a gelato shop.
I love the name.
He'll run the business, and she can make the gelato.
What do you say?
Yes.
Yeah?
You are the best.
At first, their partnership works like a charm.
Hi.
Business is booming,
What can I get for you?
and Vera pours everything she has into the gelato shop.
Baby.
Should we close the shop early?
I think we should.
But after months of living and working together, their true colors come out.
Do you have to chew so loud?
Do you have to read so loud?
It was only a matter of time before these two really got to know each other. And the problem with marrying somebody a month after you meet them is eventually their mask falls to the ground and you're left with, well, the person you married. And you know what they say, happy wife, happy life.
Scott soon tires of Vera's obsessive vegan lifestyle
Seriously, Scott?
and loses interest in both Vera and her business. Scott's disdain for Vera's lifestyle ups the tension in their marriage.
Scott,
And in the bedroom.
are you in there?
Despite the fact that Vera obviously can't stand Scott anymore, he's her ticket to motherhood and she's not giving up on her future children without a fight.
Oh, why are you such a child?
When people really want something like a baby, it can cause them to do all sorts of things they normally wouldn't. But my advice for Vera in this situation is cut your losses.
I want a divorce, Scott.
Me too.
In the divorce settlement, Vera agrees to buy the business from Scott, and he agrees to move on to greener pastures.
Seems fair.
A quickie marriage that ends in a quickie divorce. This is my surprise face. Easy come, easy go, as they say. It seems that neither one of them are particularly upset that it didn't work out. They're young, they're attractive, there's a bunch more fish in the sea. Or flavors in the gelato shop, or, well, you get the picture.
With Scott out of the picture, Vera spends her time creating new vegan flavors for her shop. Until neighbors complain about the noise.
I'm so sorry about the noise. It's just my new mixer. I've been working on this flavor all night long. I'm really sorry. How about I offer you some gelato on the house?
Who can refuse that kind of apology, especially when it's accompanied by free gelato?
Thank you.
Kind of makes you wonder what's behind all that sugar and sweetness. And I'm not talking about the gelato.
Over the next few weeks, Vera actively searches online dating websites for the father of her future kids. When suddenly, a new customer walks in the door.
Hey.
Hi.
Sorry, don't I know you from the news the other day?
Oh yeah, probably. I'm Justin.
Vera.
Nice to meet you, Vera.
Nice to meet you. What can I get you?
What do you recommend?
Well,
Justin is a vegan activist and a local celebrity in the movement against meat cause.
pomegranate kale.
I love kale.
Vera is immediately smitten.
On the house.
I like this house.
Vera sets her sights on Justin pretty soon after her divorce. From a psychological perspective, that can tell us a lot about her personality. Insecure? Looking for validation? Unable to be alone? Heck, I just check all of the above.
Thanks.
Vera and Justin start dating as they bond over their shared vegan values.
Perfect.
And it doesn't take long before Vera invites Justin to move in.
Babe, it's perfect. I love it. I think this is the one we should print. You know, we can give out dozens to people during the marches and stuff. It's really good to have a partner on my quest. You know, to save the world from maniacal meat eaters.
It's important work. I'm glad we can do it together.
So you would think a girl like Vera might have learned a thing or two about diving headfirst into a relationship. But no. See, while she's still looking for her Prince Charming, what she really wants is a baby, which is why she refuses to take the blinders off. But the problem with tunnel vision is you can't see the curveballs coming.
The passion for their united cause spills over into the bedroom.
I love you.
You too, babe.
What do you think about us having a baby?
Babe, my priority right now is the movement. A kid is the last thing I need.
This is exactly what I meant about curveballs. Vera just assumed that having a baby was at the top of the priority list for Justin. She never considered something like asking him if he wanted a baby before they moved in together. The danger in making assumptions is that 9 out of 10 times you're going to be wrong. That leads to disappointment, and inevitably, the gloves come off.
When Justin tells Vera he doesn't want a baby, her dreams of having a family are dashed.
Babe, hurry up. I have a protest this morning.
Okay.
But a desperate Vera refuses to take no for an answer and decides to take matters into her own hands. But the plumbing system is less than reliable in Vera's old apartment,
Babe, come here.
and Justin easily discovers her plan.
Is that your birth control? This is totally deceptive and unethical.
Deceptive? All I wanted was a family. You promised me a family.
No, I didn't. You're delusional.
Justin!
Angry at Vera for trying to trick him into fatherhood, Justin puts the brakes on their sex life.
That just wasn't cool, babe. No. We need to focus on our emotional connection, not the physical.
After weeks of abstaining from sex, Justin's still not interested. Vera starts to get suspicious. Her worst fears are confirmed when she discovers he's been sexting with another woman.
What's this?
Babe, it's just an old friend.
Just an old friend? All I wanted was a baby. Why can't you give that to me?
What we have here is a classic case of disconnect between the fairy tale of the white picket fence and the reality, which is most guys don't want to have a baby with someone they've only known for 3 weeks.
Get out!
Jesus.
Probably not a lesson most people need to learn, but Vera is on a mission, and in her mind, the clock is ticking.
But the next day, it appears all is forgiven.
Thanks.
I trust your opinion.
Vera even asks Justin to sample a new flavor of gelato, pumpkin flaxseed folly.
Very good.
Good.
Thanks, babe.
After devouring the entire bowl of gelato, Justin suddenly becomes ill.
Babe, are you all right?
I don't feel good.
Unbeknownst to Justin, the newest flavor of gelato has been laced with arsenic.
You shouldn't have lied to me.
I didn't lie. Please. Help.
Justin dies a slow and painful death on the gelato shop floor.
So Vera definitely has an interesting problem-solving style. Women tend to favor poison as their weapon of choice because it's less messy and doesn't require strength to overcome their victim. But the motive behind this murder is unique. Vera poisons her boyfriend because he didn't want a baby and then refused to have sex with her. Very Henry VIII. I'd say Vera's displaying classic narcissistic tendencies with a dash of hypocrisy thrown in. See, she goes out of her way to save the animals of the world, but when it comes to killing another human being, she goes from 0 to 60 in a heartbeat.
After serving Justin his last taste of gelato, Vera proceeds to chop him into pieces.
You may not know this, and why should you, but cutting through a human body is akin to using a butter knife to split wood. It takes an incredible amount of strength. Vera's probably, 110 pounds soaking wet, but she was likely pumped up by adrenaline, which explains how she could dismember Justin limb by limb. The fact that she was so methodical and unfazed by the whole deal suggests she can disassociate from reality just a little too easily. And that's not good news for Vera's future boyfriends.
2 days after killing and disposing of Justin, Vera files a missing persons report.
When was the last time you saw your boyfriend?
It was a couple of days ago. We got in a fight, and he stormed out. I thought he'd be back by now. Or maybe he's left me for good.
I doubt that.
Vera charms the detective, playing the part of jilted lover to perfection.
Can I offer you one of our lemony lime tofu torpedoes? It's a house specialty.
Sure.
Okay.
Always open to new experiences.
Just before the detective leaves, Vera makes him one last offer.
Sure you don't want to check in the basement for bodies or anything?
I'll see ya.
Bye, detective.
The fact that Vera can joke about looking for bodies in the basement without batting an eye shows she's brazen. She's practically daring the cop to call her bluff. She's playing with him. People like that are even more dangerous because it means they have a blatant disregard for authority and no fear of consequences, which translates to, watch your back, guys.
With Justin out of the picture permanently, Vera goes back to the drawing board, looking for yet another Prince Charming. Meanwhile, unbeknownst to Vera, a week after Justin has his last taste of gelato, a maintenance man has been called in to do work on her building.
Big surprise, those little air fresheners won't actually conceal the smell of a dead body. Think rotting meat mixed with a dirty diaper left out in the hot sun for a week. Believe me, even after 25 years in the Bureau, it's not a scent that I ever got used to it, and I can still smell it if I think about it.
When Detective Nelson arrives,
What the?
he makes a grisly discovery.
Not one, but two mutilated bodies buried in pumpkin flaxseed gelato. We know she poisoned and chopped up her activist boyfriend, but who else did Vera have it in for?
Will you marry me?
Yes.
Vera and Scott got married only a month after meeting each other. They soon opened a vegan gelato shop together, and their love flourished. But Scott soon got bored of the business and his wife,
Scott.
and refused to give her the one thing she wanted in life.
Go away.
A child. After divorcing Scott, he refuses to move out. So Vera, determined to find the man of her dreams, goes full steam ahead.
What, do you think you're gonna impress some loser wearing that?
She begins to date, while Scott hammers non-stop at her self-esteem.
Nothing but a cheap slut. No one is ever gonna want to have a baby with you. You'll be alone forever. Your stupid little store that doesn't make any money because it doesn't want to sell actual ice cream, so you're an idiot.
As Scott dodges Vera, he hits his head on the corner of the fireplace.
Scott.
Whoops. Vera's impulsive side got the better of her there, and yep, even though her intention wasn't to kill him, it's through her actions that he died. And in the eyes of the law, that's murder. It looks like this split-second decision might have been what kick-started Vera's killing career.
At first, Vera is horrified, but soon realizes Scott is finally gone from her life, for good. But the next morning, Vera's faced with a formidable task: how to get rid of the body.
If you ask me, killing your ex-husband and chopping up his body without shedding a tear is a textbook definition of a sociopath, which basically means she's completely devoid of empathy. In Vera's mind, she's got to cover up the fact that she's killed Scott, even if it was by accident. Most of us at this point would call the police and confess our sins, but not Fantastic Vera.
The bodies are identified as her ex-husband and boyfriend, who she reported missing a week ago. Detective Nelson issues a warrant for Vera's arrest for double murder.
Please, open up.
At this point, you might think Vera is going to wave the white flag. I mean, she's wanted for double homicide, and the police are at her door. But a woman like Vera doesn't give up that easily. This wasn't part of her happily ever after scheme. But if there's one skill Vera possesses, it's an ability to think on her feet so she can easily switch lanes.
After finding Vera's apartment empty, Detective Nelson issues an all-points bulletin for Vera's arrest.
Could you take me to the airport, please?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
Vera flees, heading to the closest airport.
That's Vera the Vixen. She's known around town as the animal rights activist.
Can you just turn the radio off? I hate the news.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Suddenly, she changes her mind.
My flight's canceled. Can you take me to the border?
All right.
Vera's instincts are good. She's smart to avoid the airport because police will put a hold on a person's passport as soon as they've issued a warrant for the arrest. They're going to be searching not only Vera's home, but every other place she's ever stepped foot in. So hightailing it out of the country could work in her favor.
All right.
12 hours later,
Wakey, wakey, we're here.
an exhausted Vera arrives in Canada
That'll be $3,500.
and stiffs the cabbie.
Are you serious?
Sorry.
Come on. Are you?
And to ensure she looks nothing like her former self, Vera, forever the master manipulator, comes up with the best disguise ever.
Looks like all of Vera's dreams are finally coming true. But can she hold it all together, or will her former career as a killer gelato maker catch up with her?
It's been 6 months, and despite a nationwide hunt for the beautiful blonde, there have been no leads until
Holy.
the taxi driver who drove Vera to Canada comes forward.
Detective Nelson.
He tells the detective that the woman wanted for double murder is hiding out north of the border.
Yeah, I dropped her off in Quebec. She said she couldn't pay. So I remember.
Free advice. It never pays to be cheap. Of all the men Vera charmed throughout the years, she overlooked the one man who could bring her down, her taxi driver.
With the cabbie's help, Detective Nelson tracks down Vera in Canada.
Just a minute.
So, we meet again.
So we do, Detective.
Looks like you've been busy. All right, turn around.
Scott was immature. I mean, he still lived with me after the divorce. And he pissed me off. So I took a swing at him, and he fell. Kind of made the rest easy.
Vera freely admits to killing both her ex-husband
Justin would have been good
and her former boyfriend, Justin,
if he wasn't a cheater.
and disposing of their bodies in the basement of her gelato shop.
Why would you do that to someone you love?
They didn't give me what I wanted.
What was that?
Baby.
Vera is a narcissist who likely suffers from manipulative behavior disorder, so when neither guy could give her what she wanted, they ended up 6 feet under. The scary part is this woman was perfectly sane and didn't suffer from psychotic delusions, which in layman's terms means she knew what she was doing.
Vera is convicted of 2 counts of first-degree murder and sentenced to life without parole.
Hi, baby.
While in prison, she gives birth to a healthy baby girl, whom she names Buttercup.
You're gonna be so big and so strong.
Her dreams of being a mother
Just like your mama.
finally realized.
Time's up.
Please, just one more minute.
You know the rules.
I'll see you soon.
Not exactly the vision of motherhood Vera had in mind. Most people who can't have a baby either visit a fertility clinic or adopt. Instead, Vera took matters into her own hands, and when she didn't get what she wanted from her fellas, she chopped them up into little bitty pieces. Now she'll spend the rest of her life alone with no chance of getting that white picket fence. It just goes to show that killing people to get your fairy tale life doesn't pay off. And I guess that's the problem. When you build your dreams on a mountain of gelato, it eventually melts and you're left with nothing. It looks like Vera finally got her just desserts.
The events in this program are inspired by a true story. Names, dates, and details have been changed. Viewer discretion is advised. On this episode of Bizarre Murders. On the surface, wealthy plastic surgeon James and his homemaker wife Julia are the picture-perfect power couple. But behind closed doors, they both wrestle with personal demons.
Who's Miss Triple X?
When their marriage hits the rocks, detectives must look for a mysterious plus-size lady.
All right.
Who's dressed to kill. Seattle, Washington, a city blessed with natural beauty.
We'll lift a little here.
But for some citizens, natural is a relative term.
While we're at it, take care of that neck. It's quite a waddle you have.
James is a respected plastic surgeon with a very successful practice.
Can you please come in here for a moment?
His wife, Julia, is a happy homemaker and devoted mother to their only child, Isabel.
Isabel has her riding lesson at 4 o'clock. Can you please make sure she's properly attired?
James earns the big bucks, and Julia runs the household. It's 1984, so it's not that unusual a setup. On the surface, they appear to be playing their roles perfectly. But looks can be deceiving.
Hello?
You know, I don't like to be kept waiting.
James has a reputation for being a strict taskmaster.
I was in the bathroom.
I bet you were taking a bubble bath, getting ready to see your secret lover later.
James, please. I've got errands to run.
You know, it seems like Dr. James is not just a taskmaster, but controlling and a little bit paranoid. But I guess it comes with the territory. I mean, I might be paranoid if I had to please wealthy and potentially litigious clients. Or could it be he's not paranoid and Julia is actually having an affair? Can you blame her?
But there was a time when James wasn't always so in control. As for Julia, she was a free spirit who dreamed of becoming a painter. But she suffered from dramatic mood swings that she managed by self-medicating with Quaaludes and Benzedrine.
You gotta be careful with uppers like Benny's and downers like Ludes because you don't want to go up when you need to go down and down when you need to go up. Not that I would know. I mean, back in '77, I'd just bought my first Farrah Fawcett poster. But back to Julia and James. The thing with addicts, even the so-called high-functioning types, is they rely on their fix to get them through the day. The balancing act lasts only so long.
Hi, my name is Gail, and I'm an addict.
Hi, Gail.
Hi, Gail.
Julia and James meet at a Narcotics Anonymous meeting. Even though it's against the rules to date while in Narcotics Anonymous, James and Julia can't resist one another. In the midst of kicking their habits, their relationship takes an unexpected turn.
A baby?
After a shotgun wedding, James opens his own plastic surgery clinic and expects Julia to quit her job and raise their child. But a few years into their picture-perfect marriage, cracks start to appear.
You're wearing that. Where's the halston?
I thought this would be more appropriate for tonight.
Appropriate for what? A hoedown?
If I ever talk to my wife like that, well, I don't, because waiting for the other shoe to drop makes me nervous. Anyway, Dr. James is what we call a dry drunk. His fix is controlling every aspect of his life, especially his wife. And as for Julia, well, she became a homemaker for this guy. She may love the money, but I can bet she's not loving the price she's having to pay.
Go change. We're going to be late.
No. I like this dress. Then you can stick that in your pipe and smoke it. Get ready, ladies. Here we go. 1, a 2, a 1, 2 step together. Yes.
Julia, no longer content to play the role of happy homemaker that James expects, starts asserting her independence.
Now watch me for the pony. 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 Pony.
Bethlehem Rubik, Serafina speaking. How can I help you become your most fabulous self?
Put my wife on the phone now.
Julia's getting her groove back, and for a guy with James' ego and weaknesses, if he's losing control over his wife, then that makes him terrified he's losing control of his life.
She's teaching a class right now. Call back.
Who's the man? You are the man. Who is the man? You are the man.
When someone with James' coping mechanisms, or lack of them, is scared, they don't just run and hide. No, they come out swinging.
Well, if it isn't my little Jane Fonda home from another long day of leg lifts.
James, your material's getting old. Why don't you do your act for somebody that cares?
Are you forgetting who pays your way?
James, stop.
Or what, you'll leave? I've heard that before, honey. You wouldn't last a minute without my money. And you won't get Izzy. She can do better than a mother who neglects her.
You want to play dirty? Careful, because I'm ready to roll around in the mud.
I don't know where my wife is. Leave me alone, for Christ's sakes.
A successful surgeon and his beautiful wife make a pretty picture. But from the looks of the bedroom in the aftermath of their fight, it's a whole other story. It's possible Julia has taken off to cool down, or she's making plans to leave for good.
When Julia misses her aerobics classes that afternoon, her boss, Serafina, is concerned and goes to the police.
This is not like Julia. Her husband hated her working, like hated. You should hear the way he speaks to her.
All right, what is it you want me to do?
Find Julia.
Well, what if I could? I'm just telling you there are procedures.
James might be controlling and verbally abusive, but while that's repulsive, it's not enough to open an investigation, yet. A person can't be declared officially missing until they've been gone at least 48 hours, and police will only conduct a search if they believe the disappearance is suspicious.
A few days later, detectives get a call from a gas station attendant.
I was just taking out the trash, man. Honest.
Uh-huh. Julia, huh?
With 48 hours passed and the discovery of her ID, Julia is now officially considered a missing person. In the same bag as the ID, detectives find rope and nail clippers with what looks like dried blood on them, and an assortment of women's garments, all sized extra, extra large.
I know, right?
That's a whole lot of woman. Julia is petite, so I'd rule out the wardrobe as being hers, but whoever it does belong to could be involved with her disappearance or has knowledge of her whereabouts. The nail clippers are gonna need to be tested, because if the blood on them is a match to Julia, well, that might be evidence she was taken against her will. But before police go hunting for a Rubenesque mystery woman with colorful taste, they need to start closer to home. The first person they're gonna want to talk to is the husband.
Detectives want to know why James didn't report Julia as missing.
It's not the first time she's done this. The last time she abandoned her car behind a video rental store.
Well, how do you explain her ID found with a pile of garments that, shall we say, should have belonged to someone with more generous proportions?
Absolutely no idea. All right. We had a fight. I found some used condoms behind the bed, so I confronted her. My guess is she ran away with her new lover. It's Julia's, in case you need a scent for the sniffer dogs.
This guy is so caring, it gets me right there. But giving cops your wife's blouse to get a scent for search dogs isn't the weirdest thing I've ever run across during any kind of investigation. In fact, I had this one guy who claimed to have a split personality, only the other personality was a dog. And I don't speak Rottweiler. Well, bits and pieces, but not fluent. So James has answers for all the police's questions, but as a cop, when you've got the scent of something that doesn't feel quite right, you gotta follow your nose and see where it takes you.
Detective Falco talks with Serafina, hoping she can shed some more light on Julia's whereabouts.
I told you something was up, but you didn't listen.
All right. You know what? I'm listening now. I'm all ears. Did she have any secrets? Okay. Look, her husband came to me. He indicated that she might be having something on the side.
What? Jimmy Boy's the one with the secrets. Julia told me everything.
Serafina tells detectives that Julia got suspicious that her husband was having an affair. She broke into a chest that James forbade her to touch, looking for evidence.
Don't touch those.
Who's Miss Triple X, huh?
They are not Triple X.
Whatever. But they are cheap.
Okay then, big lady's underwear. It's becoming a theme. But what exactly James is doing with a bunch of women's clothes in a locked chest in his bedroom is a mystery. Or is it? Could it be just a little kinky?
Fool denied that he was cheating on her, and he even commanded her to stop breaking into his guilty treasures box.
Oh, sorry. Want one?
I don't do candy.
Suit yourself. All right, so you have any other information about Julia leaving her husband?
Yeah.
Serafina reveals that Julia had been planning her exit for some time, stashing away money and looking for an apartment for her and Isabel.
She was really gonna do it this time, even though she was petrified. Because if James found out, oh Lord.
You have to tell me where you're disappearing all night.
Me?
Yes.
Julia confessed to Serafina that she and James argued and that he was becoming more and more violent and paranoid.
Can your lover buy you all new clothes? No?
Serafina tells police that Julia couldn't bear the constant threat of abuse and violence.
I swear to you, there's no lover!
That's got us smart, and it looked like real silk, too. Julia's adamant she's not cheating, but James is not buying it. But that could be a classic misdirect. If you're the one having the affair, then you go on the offensive to shake any suspicion. All those big lady clothes, they make you wonder, could James have a mistress and they did something to take Julia out of the picture? But until police find Julia, it's only a theory.
But then, detectives catch a break. They get a call that a body has been found behind a video arcade that matches Julia's description. The body is officially ID'd as Julia.
From the state of decomposition, I'd say Julia has been dead more than a few days. So that puts it right around the time her husband claims she ran off with another guy. Now that they have Julia's body, they need to trace how it got there. And back in '84, when I started in the Bureau, forensics was a lot less high-tech, but the same rules applied. You want to solve a murder? You start with what the body tells you.
The autopsy concludes that Julia's cause of death was suffocation. The red fibers on her body turn out to be satin. And the towel Julia was wrapped in is determined to be a rare and expensive brand from Turkey. When police search the house, they discover a pillow with a trace of blood on it. Under the bed, they find a towel that is an exact replica of the one Julia's body was wrapped in.
You say, Steve, why not check the DNA? Well, back in '84, DNA profiling was just being developed. Nobody had ever even used it in a case. So to make a case in the '80s, it took more legwork. Every single piece of evidence has to conclusively connect to the crime. Back then, we just couldn't wave the DNA wand.
Thank you.
When the fibers on the pillow were tested, they're found to be a match for those found on Julia's body. And the blood on the pillow is Julia's blood type. That's enough for police to bring James in for questioning. But they can't find him anywhere. They search his bank records and discover that James has been withdrawing huge amounts of cash. They're worried he's planning on fleeing the country. Police managed to track James down at his travel agents.
What do you say we make like a stripper?
Absolutely not. I know my rights.
Actually, James, you don't. It's not uncommon for the police to ask people taken into custody to strip down. In this case, it's a chance to photograph any injuries, tattoos, or scars that can be key in their investigation. If James is hiding any cuts, bruises, or markings, the hope is they can be linked to Julia's murder.
The police identify recent scarring on James's torso and a little something else.
Yes, I am the big lady.
Oh, you're a big something, James. I gotta admit, I didn't see that coming. So the lingerie at the gas station and the secret trunk all belong to James. My question is, where did he get that little lacy number? It's cute. Not on him. There is no mystery lady. James, the dominant, controlling plastic surgeon, is a crossdresser. Talk about a not-so-sweet transvestite. Cross-dressing comes from the man's desire to explore his feminine side, and for many guys, it's an outlet for stress. The more tension at work or home, the more they want to dress up. With his marriage on the rocks, his addiction, and the stress of keeping his cross-dressing a secret, well, James was probably one big hot mess. But big panties alone don't prove that he killed his wife. The police need more evidence to make a murder charge stick.
So tell me, have you ever seen this guy before?
Yeah, man. That dude was a real jerk.
Turns out, on the same day Julia's body was found, James went to the gas station to get his car detailed.
He was mucho particular with his trunk being spotless.
I'll bet he was, and I'll bet he didn't tip either, but Mick just nailed the last piece into place. The evidence against James is coming together. The fibers on Julia's body match the pillow at the house that's got her blood on it. She was wrapped in the exact same towel found in the house. Serafina's statement sets up James' threatening behavior, and Mick puts James at the gas station with his car the day of Julia's disappearance. And I'll bet, just a bet, when they examine the car trunk, they're gonna find more evidence. Now, if the police can get James to confess, they can tie this case up with a nice big bow.
Hello, it's been an hour. What's going on? Finally. Thank you. Though I would have preferred a sparkling water.
Oh, would you? James, it's time for you to stop yammering and listen up for a change.
Detective Falco lays out all the evidence they have tying James to Julia's death.
We swept the trunk. There are traces of Julia's hair and blood all over it. We got you dead to rights, man. Anything to say?
Fine. Yes, I did it. But it was in self-defense.
Now, how did he come up with that one? Well, I'll bet James likes to watch cop dramas when he's not doing tummy tucks and facelifts. My money's on Cagney and Lacey. No, Miami Vice. That show was awesome.
What about the lingerie? What about the wig?
Leave this alone.
Tell me, James.
Leave it alone.
James admits he and Julia were arguing like they always did, but then she got ugly.
I know what you are. Don't deny it. How could you? What if people find out? We'll be laughingstocks.
Julia, please, I beg you.
Julia's reaction to James' big secret is not unusual. This was the early 80s after all, and people were a little bit less accepting about men dressing like women. James' shame at being found out and being rejected by his wife must have been too much for this control freak to bear.
I won't let you ruin my life.
In fear of his life, James says he acted out of instinct. He claimed that after he killed Julia, he put her in the car and tried to bury the body at a friend's country house. But that didn't work out, so he parked the car for the weekend before he finally found a dumpster.
She just didn't understand. She was so small town. I had to destroy my best bra and panty set because of her. Can I please get that sparkling water?
James has spilled his big lacy secret, but so far they've only got his side of the story. Unless Julia can speak up from the grave.
Hi, Detective.
But evidence from an unexpected source threatens to blow that claim out of the water.
Where did you get this?
It's from Julia.
Julia sent a letter to her boss the day before her death.
Turns out, Julia was planning to use the evidence of James' cross-dressing to blackmail him. Apparently, she'd known about his fancy for women's lingerie for a while. She was threatening to blow his cover if he didn't give her a divorce, alimony, and full custody of their child. Blackmail is a really strong motive for murder. His professional reputation was on the line. He was terrified of losing everything: his career, his money, the life he built. And given his control issues, violent behavior, and the deep shame he felt about his cross-dressing fetish, Julia was playing with fire.
With the help of the letter, police pieced together what likely happened that night.
No, don't go in there. Julia!
Julia finally had enough of James's paranoia and abuse and decided to fight back.
Blushing bride, French maid, oh, my favorite, the naughty nurse.
Do not touch those.
Be my guest. I've got copies. I want a divorce. And if you try to take Izzy away from me, I will not hesitate to use them in court.
You think you can threaten me?
Julia is counting on James giving in to her threat, but instead, he snaps.
Do not lose. Don't you forget it.
Upon further analysis, the medical examiner rules that James's wounds were self-inflicted with nail clippers.
James tried to make it look like Julia attacked him, but good old-fashioned detective work and science got the better of him. Even though DNA wasn't around as a technique in '84, forensics did the job of tying him to the crime, and James' self-defense claim is shut down. Wonder if he's got a special prison ensemble in his wardrobe. An orange, maybe?
James is charged with second-degree murder. But on the way to his first court appearance, James collapses. He's rushed to hospital, where he dies.
Turns out that James had terminal cancer, and he knew his days were numbered. He was so terrified of losing his status as the rich, successful surgeon that he was willing to do whatever it took to keep it, including murder. But in the end, he wasn't even around to care. He didn't go through a public trial that exposed his cross-dressing secret. So he got to keep his precious reputation and get out of serving hard time for killing Julia. It's kind of the ultimate get-out-of-jail-free card. Jeez, the lengths some people will go to.
The events in this program are inspired by a true story. Names, dates, and details have been changed. Viewer discretion is advised. On this episode of Bizarre Murders.
Roll camera. And action.
Blake and Eden play star-crossed lovers on the most popular soap opera on TV.
Patch, I'm sorry. He looked exactly like you.
Their legions of fans are obsessed with the on-screen couple and the passion of their relationship.
No! It has to end.
But when one of them ends up dead and thrown away like trash, detectives come knocking on the door of the small-screen melodrama.
I'm not coming out.
Looking for answers. Los Angeles, California, 2013. On a warm summer morning, a former model turned actress takes her daily stroll to a local strip mall.
That is one swanky shoe.
When she makes a surprising discovery in the car park. Detective Byers is called to the site.
Do something about this. They don't deserve to live.
It's that actor chick.
He identifies the body as soap opera star Eden from The Liars and the Lustful.
Let's cut.
Eden's father, John,
Eden, honey.
is the director and creator of the most watched soap in the country.
Trixie's devastated. Patch has just stormed out the door, so we really need to amp up the emotion.
Okay, got it.
All right, let's go again. Roll camera. And action. She's so young.
Detective Byers believes Eden was most likely bludgeoned to death by the trophy she won as part of the most famous soap opera couple ever to hit the small screen.
All right, everybody, step back.
Why would anybody do this?
When a celebrity is killed, it can be hard to keep the investigation under wraps.
Give us some space.
Give me some space.
As an investigator, knowledge is power, and holding back key points of the investigation from the media is a very strategic move. You see, that way, if someone gives up information only the killer would know, then bam, you've got yourself your prime suspect.
The first suspect on Detective Byers' radar is Eden's husband and agent, Ty.
So, Ty, how did you two meet?
On set. She's a client of mine.
He's taken her from unknown actress to soap opera star to worldwide brand.
Ever any fights?
No. I mean, you argue, but no big fights.
The spouse is always the first person investigators look at. Was he cheating? Was she cheating? Did he get jealous and decide to off her?
Ever get physical?
No.
It sounds like I'm recounting a soap opera plot, but believe me, this stuff happens all too often in real life.
She was my everything. We were a dynamic duo. I would never hurt her.
Ty tells the detective that on the night of the murder, he had dinner at Mr. Chow with two of his most famous clients.
Robert De Niro and Cleveland Eastwood, you know them?
Actor type?
Yeah.
Not only did other diners see him there, he was photographed by the paparazzi going into the restaurant.
The bad thing about being famous in Hollywood is that you can't go anywhere without being watched or followed. Just ask the Kardashians. The paparazzi can be a menace, but if you're an innocent man being questioned for the murder of your wife and they can provide you an alibi, maybe there is a use for the paps after all.
After confirming Ty's alibi, Detective Byers is searching for his new lead.
Detective Byers?
Yes, how can I help you?
When it literally walks through the door.
I have some information about Trixie's murder.
Really?
Blanche, who found Eden, tells the detective that she's an avid fan of the soap opera, The Liars and the Lustful.
For 20 years, I haven't missed a single episode. What are they going to do next season?
I don't know. I don't watch it.
I was so honored to be the one to have found her body. You know, my apartment is right across the street from there.
The day of the murder, she remembers seeing a car idled for a long time.
My antenna went up, and I knew something wasn't right.
It seemed suspicious enough for Blanche to write down the license plate number.
In the case of a celebrity death, everybody's got a theory, and rumors spread like a California wildfire. Usually, amateur detectives are a nuisance for cops, but in this case, an avid fan's keen eye just might turn this case around.
You know, we all need to pull together to find Trixie's killer.
Eden. Eden's killer.
Pardon?
Never mind.
A search of the license plates reveals that one of the cars belongs to Eden, and the other belongs to Blake, Eden's co-star, AKA Patch.
This kind of lucky break doesn't happen often in my line of work. Usually detectives just pound the pavement day after day, putting their case together. But sometimes, even the grittiest jobs are sprinkled with Hollywood stardust. So when it happens, you just look up and thank your lucky stars.
2 years ago, Blake was a struggling actor who worked as a stripper by night while auditioning during the day. A good Midwestern farm boy with more looks than talent, he came to Hollywood to fulfill his lifelong dream of winning an Oscar. But when he couldn't find work, he used the one thing he did have in his arsenal to pay the bills: his body. It's also where he met his wife, Cassie.
Why did you have him follow me?
Because I've learned something about you, Trixie. I've learned I can't trust you anymore.
Eventually, he gets his lucky break and lands a plum role on The Liars and the Lustful.
I can't live without you.
Patch, I love you.
He's cast as Patch, the tempestuous, impulsive lover of Eden's character, Trixie.
And I hate you.
Their drama-filled relationship soon thrust them into fame's bright spotlight, and fans can't get enough of their favorite couple.
Blake.
Detective Byers asks Blake to come down to the station for questioning.
For you, sir.
Yeah, I'm all right, thanks.
More for my fans.
We have a little problem, Blake. Your car was seen in the parking lot where Eden was murdered.
That's absurd, Detective. I mean, there's no way that's even possible.
Blake insists the witness must be mistaken. He claims he stayed in all day with his wife.
Do you know there's a surveillance camera in a store in that parking lot? Sees your car, plain as day.
In cop parlance, this is called a bluff. You know your suspect is lying, but you have no proof. So you bend the truth a little bit just to see if you can force his hand. With a little luck and a half-decent performance, he'll crack.
Okay, yeah. I'll tell you what you want to know, but you're not gonna like it.
Try me.
Detective Byers beat Blake at his own game and tricked him into confessing. Now let's see if Blake will spin another tall tale or finally cop to the truth.
Why was your car there, Blake?
Under pressure from Detective Byers, Blake cracks.
Well, the only reason my car was there is because Eden asked me to come and meet her.
Patch, I'm sorry. He looked exactly like you. I love you.
Blake tells Detective Byers that he and Eden are friendly on set.
I know.
But according to Blake,
No, cut.
6 months into their torrid on-screen affair,
Terrific. Really doing great, but
Eden begins to fall for her co-star.
we need you to play harder to get, to make her work for it.
She flirts incessantly, hoping for a passionate relationship off-screen as well.
A little higher. All right, good?
Yep.
All right, let's go again. And roll sound.
Blake denies her advances,
Thank you.
trying to concentrate solely on the work.
Blakey, we've got a few minutes before our next scene, so I was thinking that we could...
Eden, no, let's save our passion for the screen, okay?
You suck.
Tired of being rejected, Eden refuses to return to the set.
I'm not coming out!
Come on, honey, come on out.
Go away!
They shut down filming for the day.
Blake.
But not before Blake is given a warning.
I need you to fix this. Production's counting on you.
Concerned he'll be fired, Blake reaches out to Eden. He doesn't want his first big break to be his last big break. And if Eden doesn't return to set, he fears it's his neck on the line.
Wish me luck, man.
Knowing how volatile Eden can be, Blake treads lightly.
I really want us to get along, Eden.
Really?
But Eden takes his peace offering
Eden.
as a come-on.
No, I'm married.
So am I. What's that got to do with it?
Eden, our love exists. It's on screen through Patch and Trixie.
No. If I can't have you, no one will.
In a fit of rage, Eden attacks Blake.
No!
Trying to fend her off, he grabs the only thing in sight, his trophy, and slams it into Eden's head.
Oh my gosh. Eden! No! No! I never meant to hurt her. I just panicked. Thank you. That's your story. Yes. Then how do you explain that?
Detective Byers tells Blake that the fingerprints on the trophy that bludgeoned Eden weren't his.
They're your wife's. That's impossible. She would never do this.
Blake and Cassie marry shortly after meeting and get an unexpected wedding present.
And this is the kitchen?
When Blake lands the part of Patch on The Liars and the Lustful.
What do you think of this?
Oh, wow.
Not bad, eh?
This is so cool.
I know, right?
Cassie thinks they've hit the jackpot.
My, oh my, who do we have here?
Until she meets Eden, his beautiful co-star.
Blake.
Oh, Blake, we've been expecting you.
Really? You've heard of me already?
Of course, you're my new lover.
Wow. That's a huge compliment. I mean, quite frankly, I just wanted to let you know that I am a huge fan of your work. No, I think you're an artist.
You're making me blush. You're gonna turn me all pink. Stop.
Cassie gets more and more jealous as Patch and Trixie's on-screen love affair grows.
What is this?
Babe, it's just a part. She means nothing to me. I mean it.
Shush!
But Cassie can't stop obsessing.
So let's backtrack a second. Cassie's prints were found on the murder weapon, and she's clearly green with envy over her husband's relationship with Eden. A jealous lover killing their rival is not just the makings of a good soap opera plot. It happens all the time in real life. I've seen the most reasonable people lose it because they think their loved one is cheating on them. The problem is, once they get the seed of doubt planted deep in their mind,
That is not nothing.
they can't get it out. And they obsess over it until it becomes so overwhelming that the only way to release the mounting pressure is to confront it. I'm sensing hints of fatal attraction. You know what I mean?
Have a seat.
Am I in trouble?
Looks like detectives are honing in on Blake's wife, Cassie. She can't deny her fingerprints were found on the murder weapon. But that doesn't mean that's the end of the story. It's my guess she's got a tale of her own to tell.
Funny thing is, the bloody fingerprints, are yours.
It's not what you think.
Cassie cracks under the pressure.
Eden was in love with him.
She confirms Blake's claim that Eden was aggressively pursuing a relationship with him.
She kept making advances and he kept saying, I'm married.
But that's where the similarities between Blake and Cassie's story ends.
Babe, this is fantastic. Thank you so much for tonight.
Welcome.
Wine, chocolate, maybe we could do a little bit less with the chocolate. But...
I don't think we need less chocolate.
Anyway, babe, I actually got a new copy of the script and...
The day of the murder, Blake tells Cassie that Eden wants to meet with him to rehearse an upcoming scene.
Do you really think I'm that stupid?
Believing that Eden has finally got her claws into Blake,
I'm on to you.
No, Cassie cakes, come on.
Cassie accuses him of cheating on her.
Why would I want her when I have you? Babe, no, calm down.
No,
it's okay.
In an attempt to calm Cassie down, he invites her along to the rehearsal.
I'll show you. It's all very innocent. You'll see.
Cassie hides in the back seat of the car as Blake meets with Eden
Hi, Blakey Doodle.
and soon gets proof her suspicions were right.
I guess we won't be needing this.
Eden, no, I'm married. Our love exists. It's just on screen through Patch and Trixie.
No. If I can't have you, no one will.
Worried Eden is about to kill her husband, Cassie comes to Blake's defense and grabs the closest thing to her.
No!
Cassie, what have you done?
Cassie insists that she hit Eden in self-defense.
I mean, she was gonna kill him. What was I supposed to do? You should have seen the look in her eyes.
She tells Detective Byers that Blake confessed to protect her, but he had nothing to do with it.
Really?
Looking for the truth, Detective Byers sets out to talk to the cast and crew of The Liars and the Lustful.
Detective Byers.
John, sorry about your loss.
Thank you.
He quickly discovers that Blake's story about Eden's obsession is a little more fiction than fact.
Eden loved her husband. They were a match made in heaven.
As the detective delves deeper into the soap opera world, he learns that Blake is known as a method actor.
He took his craft very seriously.
For those of you who aren't in the know, the method is a style of acting where the actor totally immerses himself in the role and tries to truly experience the emotions of their character.
He wanted us to call him Patch even when the cameras weren't rolling.
Seriously?
It all sounds a little complicated to me, but hey, I'm not an actor, so I'm gonna leave it to the pros.
No! It has to end.
Trixie.
Go.
On the day of Eden's murder, John surprises the cast by writing Blake out of the show.
Cut. That's a wrap.
He feels a dramatic breakup scene is exactly what their ratings need.
John.
Yes.
Blake begs John to reconsider the breakup of Trixie and Patch.
I have so much more story to tell.
But John refuses.
There's not a chance, Blake. It's for the best. Really good work.
Hey, Eden, I need you to talk to your father.
Blake, I'm sorry. Once my dad's made up his mind, there's no changing it.
The desperation of a person trying to get what they want can drive them to do unspeakable things. And Blake is one desperate dude, but this is taking things to the extreme. He's sunk so far into his role that he's unable to distinguish what is real and what isn't. There's a different word for that in my line of work. It's called delusional.
Hey, I need to talk to you in person.
Hey, buddy.
It can't end like this.
Are you okay?
Can you meet me somewhere?
Yeah, sure. Just let me know where.
Okay. Okay, thanks, hon.
So this flies in the face of what both Blake and Cassie told Detective Byers. If Blake arranged for the meeting, not Eden, then that puts things in a totally different light. It speaks to intent and it speaks to premeditation. Did Blake have it in his mind to make Eden pay because he was being cut from the show? Was he going to threaten her and then things went sideways? Or was his plan always to get rid of Eden for good? Right now, Blake's motivation isn't clear. But either way, he's writing the final act of his one-man show, and it ain't gonna be pretty.
Detective Byers now knows that both Blake and Cassie are lying to him. But he gets an even bigger surprise when the autopsy reports come back. It reveals Eden died not by a blow to the head as originally suspected, but by strangulation.
The detective has two versions of Eden's death, and neither one of them involve strangling someone to death in self-defense. So what does that mean to Detective Byers? The short answer is this: someone's lying.
So?
Detective Byers confronts Blake with the evidence that Eden was strangled.
What do you have to say about that?
Directly contradicting Blake's earlier story of killing Eden in self-defense.
Cough it up. What's the real story?
The actor's tough exterior crumbles.
You got me.
He tells the detective he had no choice.
She deserved it.
When Blake gets home from set after performing his final love scene with Eden, he's devastated.
She broke up with me.
What?
Trixie broke up with me. They're cutting me from the show.
Blake lies to Cassie, telling her John would prefer to keep Patch on the show rather than Trixie, but he can't fire his own daughter.
She is nothing but trouble. First, she tries to steal my man, and then she gets you fired?
There is another way.
What do you mean?
This, my friends, is a brilliant course in Manipulation 101. Playing on someone's insecurities is a surefire way to get them to do what you want. In this case, Blake needs an accomplice, and he knows his wife's jealousy will cause her to go along with just about any plan he suggests.
We need to kill Trixie.
You mean Eden?
Yes, of course. Eden, we need to kill Eden.
In an attempt to get rid of her biggest rival and finally have her husband all to herself,
Let's do it.
Cassie agrees.
Hey. How you doing, buddy?
You shouldn't have done it, Trixie.
What? Blake, that's my character. It's Eden here. What's up?
You never should have broken up with me.
Are you okay?
Get your hands off of him! No! Take that, you man-stealer!
When they're sure she's passed out,
You can't say I didn't warn you, Trixie!
Blake proceeds to strangle Eden to death with his own hands.
Cassie and I went out for sushi afterwards, and I got California rolls because I don't really like raw fish, but she ended up getting this.
Blake! Why did you do it?
She broke up with me.
You mean your characters broke up? On TV?
No, I mean, Trixie broke up with me. Patch.
Get up.
Detective Byers charges Blake and Cassie with first-degree murder.
It's over, Blake.
Patch. You can call me Patch.
They both receive a life sentence for murdering Eden.
By the way, can I get my trophy back after all this?
No.
The fact that Blake cares more about his soap opera award than the human life only reinforces what we know about him. He's living in an alternate reality, kind of method acting his way through life.
While in prison, Blake and Cassie divorce. But Blake doesn't stay single for long. He soon takes up with a pen pal, a longtime fan of The Liars and the Lustful. She agrees to call him Patch.
So what we have here is a man unable to distinguish fantasy from reality. In Blake's mind, he was his character, and when Trixie broke up with Patch, Blake felt the anger and humiliation that goes along with being ditched like a hot potato. And because he probably suffers from some type of narcissistic personality disorder, there was no way he was going to let her treatment of him go unpunished. It was easy for him to get Cassie to agree to the plan because she hated Eden and figured if she was out of the picture, they would live happily ever after. But while planning the perfect murder may work out in soap operas, it rarely happens in real life. In reality, the couple that kills together doesn't stay together. But somehow I don't think Blake, or rather Patch, really minds. I guess there are advantages to living in a fantasy world.
The events in this program are inspired by a true story. Names, dates, and details have been changed. Viewer discretion is advised. On this episode of Bizarre Murders, Brittany and her mother Mitzi are desperate for fame.
Ready to rehearse? How do I look?
And they'll do almost anything to get it.
Have you ever cheated?
Uh-oh.
But when one of them goes missing in the dead of night, police are left wondering if the price of superstardom is too high. Brittany is a 25-year-old former beauty queen who works as a cocktail waitress and dreams of becoming a famous actress. And the only one who wants this dream to become reality more than her
You ready to rehearse? How do I look?
is her mother, Mitzi.
Would you like fries with that?
No, I don't believe that at all.
Mitzi is a single mother who works double shifts at the local diner, having been passed over by the superstardom gods.
Who's gonna be a superstar? Hi, you are.
Mitzi has determined her own daughter will climb the ladder and join the Hollywood elite at the top.
Oh my God, Mom. Don't touch my hair. I spent like an hour getting it to look this good.
Sorry, there's just this one hair.
I said stop. Brittany.
You come across a lot of dysfunctional relationships in my line of work, but this mother and daughter duo takes the cake. Brittany is a spoiled kid who thinks her mother is put there for the sole purpose of making her a star. And Mitzi is your typical overbearing stage mother who's determined to manage her daughter's career with an iron fist. The sad thing is, it's not all that uncommon in Hollywood. Remember Lindsay Lohan and her mother? Need I say more?
Brittany's boyfriend Connor is a handsome but shy driving instructor who grew up around the corner.
Yeah, I saw him in the store. I thought I'd buy him, surprise you.
Connor worships the ground Brittany walks on and showers her with gifts.
Well,
Connor?
yes?
Brittany's getting ready for an audition.
But I just wanted to just...
Goodbye. Britt, you can do better.
I know, but he buys me nice things.
You need to find someone famous to buy you nice things. Besides, those flowers were cheap. Set your sights higher.
Mitzi's a true tiger mom who's not letting anything get in the way of Brittany's success, least of all, a driving instructor with no game. But that kind of pressure can weigh heavily on a kid. They may end up succeeding. Heck, they may end up exceeding their mother's expectations. But the question is, at what cost?
But despite the number of auditions Brittany goes to,
You're kidding.
she continues to be rejected.
Did you get the part?
No! That's ridiculous! Why can't they see that you're a star?
Chocolate? No.
Brittany continues to audition and continues to be rejected.
Why don't they like me?
Those director types are shallow and self-centered. They can't see past themselves. They don't know what they're missing. Go away.
But just when Brittany is ready to give up on her dream of becoming a superstar, she gets a call that changes her life.
I got it?
Oh my God! I got it! Yes. I got it! Yes!
But it's not quite the award-winning role she'd been hoping for.
Oh, what? It's to be a contestant on a game show.
So? Are you gonna be on TV?
Yeah.
Then we'll take it!
Stage mom Mitzi isn't too concerned at this point what role Brittany lands. Much like Mama Kardashian, she seems to subscribe to the view that there's no such thing as bad publicity. And even an unknown game show could be their ticket to stardom and financial freedom.
The show is called The Truth Hurts, where contestants are hooked up to a polygraph machine and asked a series of questions. With each truthful answer, they win more money.
Okay! Brittany, we're really glad to have you here. Let's start off slow to warm you up. Have you ever called in sick to work?
Yes.
And has she answered honestly, folks? Alrighty then! Next question. Have you ever flirted with a customer for a bigger tip?
Yes.
Brittany, you've got that star quality. The audience loves you, the camera loves you. All right, let's heat things up a little. Have you ever had surgery to enhance your looks?
Well,
Yes.
I got a boob job.
Oh.
Seems like easy money for admitting to a couple of minor transgressions. But in my experience, there's no such thing as a free lunch, and you and I both know that in the era of reality TV, there's gotta be a catch somewhere.
The show is a huge success. And not only does Brittany win loads of cash, the exposure catapults her to a solid C-list celebrity.
I told you, the world would recognize a star once they saw it.
Both Brittany and Mitzi quit their day jobs and focus on getting Brittany's face on the cover of every magazine.
Sorry, Connor. It's over.
She immediately dumps Connor and starts dating a fellow reality star.
Oh my God, Mom! It's him!
Answer it.
Answer it!
Brittany and Mitzi have achieved their dream. Not only is Brittany newly famous, but they have money to boot. This dynamic duo believes that the gravy train has finally started running and there's no stopping it now. But we live in a world where celebrities come and go as fast as cold beer on a hot summer day, and there's always someone newer and younger clawing at your heels. If you're smart, you'll parlay your 15 seconds into a fortune fast, but if you're not, well, you'll just end up another Hollywood has-been.
Hoping to capitalize on Brittany's newfound fame, her mother keeps her schedule packed with auditions and interviews. So when Brittany misses an appointment for a starring role in a new reality show, Mitzi is furious.
What do you mean she didn't show up?
But when Brittany doesn't come home that night, Mitzi fears the worst. She calls 911 to report her daughter missing.
No, she hasn't been missing for 24 hours. But do you know who my daughter is? Does Brittany the Vixen ring a bell?
When they refuse to take her seriously, Mitzi turns to social media. News of Brittany's disappearance spreads like wildfire.
Thank you for seeing me.
When the mainstream media grabs hold of the headlines, the police finally take Mitzi's concerns seriously.
Is this your daughter?
Of course it's her. That's me in the background.
Detective Pablo tells Mitzi that her daughter's car was found parked outside the latest Miami hotspot. In it, they found Brittany's purse and phone.
But she was nowhere to be found.
My Brittany. Where's my Brittany?
So there's two ways of looking at this scenario. One, Brittany went out clubbing, went home with some guy and is sleeping off her hangover somewhere in the city. The other is that she's a victim of foul play. And over the course of my career, when you find someone's purse and cell phone abandoned in their car, it's usually the latter.
She called me on the way to her audition, and I haven't heard from her since.
Detectives search social media looking for clues.
She hasn't posted anything in a while, and that's not like her.
In this day and age, reality stars live online. Their worth is measured by how many people follow them. So for a fame-hungry person like Brittany not to post, it means that something or someone is preventing her from doing it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mitzi gets the word out in the one way she knows how.
My name is Mitzi. I'm Brittany's mother. She's the star of a new game show called The Truth Hurts. I'm imploring anyone who knows anything about my daughter's disappearance to come forward.
Meanwhile, detectives work to track down every possible lead. Acting on a tip generated by Mitzi's news conference, they track Brittany down to a motel room in a rough part of the city.
Police, open up! Are you alone here?
But instead of a glamorous reality TV star, he discovers a different young woman who's run away from home. Detective Pablo has exhausted all leads.
I just wanted to come to tell you myself. It wasn't her.
I know.
Until Mitzi receives a ransom note in the mail.
There was a knock on the door. I found this. I thought it was a gift from one of Brittany's fans. That's the exact amount she won on the show.
Criminals usually target the children of wealthy folks, not working class people like Mitzi and Brittany. Not to mention that Brittany's been gone a full week now, and any kidnapper worth their salt would have been in touch sooner than this. So these are either the stupidest kidnappers on the planet, or follow-up isn't their strong point. Either way, these guys are looking like the latest version of Dumb and Dumber.
In an attempt to decipher the origins of the note, detectives take a DNA sample from the saliva on the envelope and run it through their criminal database. But Detective Pablo gets a lucky break when he notices the postmark on the envelope. It shows the letter was mailed at a nearby post office, which means that the kidnappers could be local.
Tracking down kidnappers in this day and age can prove difficult. These cowards can hide behind a million ones and zeros, which means they can be operating in another country or just down the street. But this kidnapper may be showing his age by using an old technique and snail mail to boot. But just because the letter was mailed from somewhere in Brittany's neighborhood doesn't mean that's where the kidnappers are holding Brittany. It could simply be a ploy to throw investigators off the track.
Why am I here?
Detectives are starting to wonder if this is a publicity stunt orchestrated by none other than Brittany and her mother.
Is this a trick for you guys to get even more famous?
I would never hurt my baby. You fool.
Then, would you mind providing us with some saliva samples?
No way. You can't treat me like a common criminal.
Mitzi, it will help us with our investigation to find Brittany.
Okay, fine.
Thank you.
Alrighty then, Brittany, are you ready to roll?
Bring it on.
Ha! Have you ever cheated?
Uh-oh. Mom's not gonna like this one. Yes. In the state beauty pageant.
I hate to ask, but not really. What did you do?
Well, I guess the cat's out of the bag now. I just lied about doing charity work. It was like so boring. I just couldn't do it.
Mitzi has sacrificed her whole life so that Brittany can be a star. But she's just revealed on national TV that she's basically a fake do-gooder, a fact that will likely cause her to lose her coveted crown. It makes you wonder if that's enough for someone deeply invested in Brittany's success, like Mitzi, to snap.
But when the DNA results found on the ransom note come in, the saliva on the envelope doesn't match Mitzi.
I told you I didn't do it, you idiot.
With Mitzi ruled out as a suspect and no further contact from the kidnappers, police are stymied. Until a waste collector stumbles upon her body during his daily pickups.
This missing persons case has just turned into a classic case of whodunit. And what we have here is the work of a very angry perpetrator. To hide her body under a bunch of garbage bags shows blatant disregard, disrespect, and maybe even outright hatred for the victim.
An autopsy reveals the cause of death was by drowning. With no evidence to prove she was bound or held against her will, Detective Pablo believes she was killed shortly after she was abducted.
This is horrible. Just horrible. I don't know what I'm gonna do without my Brittany.
Do you know anyone who would want to hurt her like this?
She just broke up with her boyfriend. But he's so meek. He wouldn't hurt a fly.
Police bring Connor down to the station for questioning, but he denies ever seeing Brittany on the day she disappeared.
She didn't love me anymore, so
But when detectives question him further, they discover some suspicious behavior. Connor reveals that he moved out of his apartment a few days after Brittany went missing.
Why did you move?
Because I couldn't afford it.
Their suspicion heightens when Connor tells detectives he sold his car, too.
An ex-boyfriend is always a suspect, but when he moves out of his apartment and sells his car shortly after his ex-girlfriend goes missing, well, that's a sure sign someone's getting ready to flee. And nothing says guilty like a man on the run.
Connor is given a polygraph test to determine whether or not he's telling the truth.
Do you still love Brittany?
No.
Were you upset when she broke up with you?
No.
Did Brittany come see you on the night she disappeared?
No.
Connor, literally, why don't you just fess up?
I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to hurt her, I'm being honest.
Connor says that Brittany came over to his house to pick up some money that he owed her. One drink led to 4, and they decided they were meant to be together.
I never stopped loving you. All the reality stars in the whole world could not measure up to you.
Yeah? What about, your new boyfriend?
He's so yesterday.
Connor tells detectives he thought they were going to get back together and get married.
Connor, I can't marry you.
What? Why not?
Because I don't love you.
Connor, shocked and hurt, turns to leave,
Connor, wait.
but is stopped in his tracks by what Brittany says next.
What about the money you owe me?
Is money all you care about?
Ow! Stop it!
I didn't mean to hurt her, honest.
That's good, Connor. Now, why don't you just tell us what really happened?
Okay.
It doesn't take a lie detector to tell Pablo that Connor isn't telling the whole truth. Pure cop instinct says that Connor knocked Brittany off. The real question is whether or not it was premeditated, and that's a big deal when you're standing before a judge. And it could mean the difference between whether Connor lives or bites the proverbial dust.
Detective Pablo knows Connor is lying about his encounter with Brittany,
Here is the toxicology report.
and the toxicology report confirms his suspicions. There was a strong sedative in her system that would have rendered her unconscious before she drowned.
Are you ready to give it up now?
The fact that Brittany was unconscious before she was drowned proves that Connor planned to kill her. In other words, it's premeditated murder, and Connor is in a whole lot of trouble. So we have means, we have opportunity, but the question cops now have to answer is, what's the motive? What would make a reserved driving instructor plot such an elaborate murder?
Okay, folks, we're upping the stakes and the money. Brittany, are you ready?
Yes!
Are you a waitress in a cocktail bar?
No, I'm not. I'm actually a stripper!
I did not see that coming.
Brittany, stop!
Mitzi is devastated, convinced Brittany's shot at a Hollywood career is over.
Brittany, Brittany, Brittany.
But the audience eats it up.
Okay. Are you ready for your final question? Have you ever cheated on your boyfriend?
Well, I have to be honest. Yes, I have.
It was with my sugar daddy, Biggie G.
Oh, Biggie, Biggie, Biggie.
My dear, you truly are an honest person. Congratulations!
Desperation for fame and money can drive people to do unthinkable things. In her pursuit of being a star, Britney has humiliated her boyfriend on national TV. The audience may love this drama, but the casualties involve real people with real feelings who can end up with real motives for murder.
Following Britney's rejection, Connor becomes more and more isolated and unhinged.
Shut up! Shut up! Shut up!
And the media hounds him non-stop. As does his bookie.
Yeah.
They want him to pay back the huge debt he owes them.
I'm gonna get you the money by next week, I promise.
The pressure mounts. Until he finally loses it. Hoping to cash in on some of her winnings to pay back his gambling debt, Connor phones Britney.
Baby, you used me to get that money. I deserve half of it at least.
Connor, you still owe me money. I earned that. It's mine. Get a life.
And that's when good old Connor finally snaps.
Later that day, Connor invites Britney to his apartment, promising to pay her the money he owes.
Okay, I'm here. Where's my money?
But instead, spikes her drink with a sedative.
Let's have a drink before we talk about that.
No thanks.
Come on, it's a mojito. It's your favorite. Drink up.
Whatevs, I'm going out later anyway.
Right? What?
Once she passes out,
How does it feel to be humiliated, Brittany?
Connor drags Britney towards the sink and drowns her. Then attempts to cover his tracks. And lastly, sends a fake ransom note, hoping to buy enough time to make a quick getaway.
She humiliated me on national TV. Okay? I just wanted my whole life back.
Killing someone for humiliating them on national TV, even for me, that's rare. Looks like Connor's taking the meaning of reality TV to a whole new level. There's no going back.
In an attempt to lessen his sentence, Connor's lawyer tries to blame the television show The Truth Hurts. He argues it's responsible for humiliating him. But the judge doesn't buy it. Connor is found guilty of premeditated murder and sentenced to life in prison.
Britney and her mother Mitzi wanted fame and fortune above all else, and they weren't really concerned about who they hurt along the way. But that doesn't mean Britney deserved to die. If every fame seeker was killed for being ruthless on their way to the top, well, Hollywood would be a pretty lonely place. Just think of how many bachelors and bachelorettes that have been dumped on live TV, and not one of them have been killed by their ex. Connor may have been humiliated by Britney's confessions, but he chose to kill her because of it. That's all on him. It kind of makes you wonder if honesty really is the best policy.
The events in this program are inspired by a true story. Names, dates, and details have been changed. Viewer discretion is advised. On this episode of Bizarre Murders,
Celeste?
when a virtuoso musician vanishes in the middle of a performance,
I'm calling the police.
investigators discover there's a killer waiting in the wings.
Just leave me alone, please.
And everyone is a suspect.
Fingerprint time.
Do you think this is a game? Do I look like a fool to you?
Will they be able to penetrate a closed world of bitter rivalry and ambition to catch a killer?
Do not let anyone in for any reason.
Or will someone get away with murder? Celeste is a young virtuoso cellist who just graduated top of her class from a music conservatory in the south of France. She's left the provinces behind and moved to the City of Lights, determined to make a name for herself as a soloist. And Celeste has come a long way in just 2 years. She's worked her way up the ranks to second cello in an illustrious orchestra. But she has her eyes on being first cello and is willing to do whatever it takes to be the best, even if it means making enemies along the way.
Like the song says, it's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll, even if what you're playing is Mozart and Beethoven. Behind those lovely harmonies, the classical music world is cutthroat. Kind of reminds me of my time at the FBI, because to make it in an orchestra, you got to be driven, ruthless, and super talented. Celeste is all of the above, and that makes her fellow cello players nervous. Let's say they're highly strung. Yeah, she's made a few enemies, but that's the price you pay to be top of your game.
Celeste is so focused on her music that she has no time for romance. But even if Celeste isn't looking for Mr. Right, someone definitely has his eye on her.
Celeste is young, talented, and beautiful, on her way to the lofty heights of the classical music world. Of course she has fans. Now maybe this is just the cop in me, but there's always something a little creepy about secret admirers. Sure, if my poetry was that lousy, I'd probably want to remain anonymous too. But flattering as it might be, you gotta stay wise, because your secret admirer could be just a few cheap rhymes away from becoming a stalker. And no one wants that kind of fan.
It's opening night of the musical event of the season. And the Opera House is packed with the who's who of Paris society. But tonight, Celeste is feeling under the weather. She lives by the words, "The show must go on," so nothing short of a natural disaster will prevent her from picking up her bow for the final acts. When the opera resumes, Celeste is nowhere to be seen. And when the concert's over, she doesn't come back to the orchestra pit to get her instrument.
It might not seem like a big deal, but you gotta remember, with musicians, their instruments are like their babies. They don't just leave them lying around. Not to mention, a cello like Celeste's is worth several $1,000s. She would never just leave it. There is definitely a bum note in this situation.
Celeste?
Celeste's friend Amelie knows that she isn't feeling well and thinks she might be resting backstage.
Have you seen Celeste?
Who?
Celeste Dimwit. second cello.
Whatever, lady.
If Celeste found a quiet place to rest during the intermission,
Celeste,
she might have fallen asleep.
are you back here?
But the backstage service corridors are confusing to anyone unfamiliar with them, and the musicians rarely have any reason to venture there.
Dominic.
So, did you find my runaway cellist?
No, but I found her shoe lying in the hallway.
Hello. So what?
So that's weird, no? Who leaves their shoe lying in the hallway? I think there was blood. Maybe we should call the police. Something terrible might have happened.
Don't be silly. It's a good riddance as far as I'm concerned.
I'm calling the police.
Inspector Javel has detective work in her blood. She's from a long line of police officers stretching back to the days of Eugène Vidot, the first French detective and the inspiration for Sherlock Holmes.
So, has Celeste ever done this before? Left in the middle of a concert?
No.
Romantic problems?
No.
So here we have a musician who never misses a day of practice, let alone half a concert performance, and she has up and vanished. Her friends found her shoe near a trail of blood backstage.
Show me where that shoe is.
But if anyone can figure out what's going on, it's our inspector. She's a lot like Celeste herself, determined and meticulous, and nothing escapes her attention, like Dominic's attitude towards the situation. Javel sees right off the bat that her missing cello player has rivals.
This is where I found the shoe.
Don't touch that. There might be evidence. You two go back to the rehearsal room and wait for me. Do not leave the building.
It's down there.
Deep in the backstage passageways, Inspector Javel discovers signs of a struggle. There's a streak of blood next to the abandoned shoe.
Quite the night at the opera so far, isn't it? Now, we all know that in show business, things go on behind the scenes and we all want a glimpse. The thing is, you rarely get one. But if you're in the crook-catching business, your badge is a backstage pass to the darkest corners of human nature. And our inspector is shining a light into a very dark nook indeed. Looks like our missing cello player took her final bow. And this is clearly not some random thing. I mean, it's not like she's strayed into a bad neighborhood. It's an opera house full of civilized people, right? If all of this is reminding you of a certain famous story, just remember, in real life, there are no phantoms, but there are killers. And there's one on the loose right now.
Get me the medical examiner on the line and lock down the building. Do not let anyone in or out for any reason.
To Inspector Javel, Celeste's murder has all the hallmarks of a sexually motivated crime.
After a few years of working homicide, you learn how killers think and how they do things. And in Murder 101, you learn that killers almost always try to hide the body. I mean, it seems obvious, right? Celeste has been tied up and partially undressed. To me, this looks like the killer wants to send some kind of message. Whoever murdered Celeste has something to say.
When Inspector Javel searches Celeste's locker, she finds the anonymous love letter. It could be a key clue. If she finds who wrote it, she might find Celeste's killer. Inspector Javel collects prints from everyone in the building as she takes their statements.
It's going to be a long haul for our inspector. From an investigative point of view, it's a logistical nightmare. Everyone in the building is a suspect.
I can't believe it. Why would someone do this to her?
She can narrow things down a bit because whoever hid Celeste in the utility closet wasn't an audience member. They don't have access to backstage. But that still leaves over 100 people, musicians, stagehands, cleaning staff, managers, and any one of them could be the killer. But there's a technique we call containment, and just like it sounds, that means keeping all your suspects in one place like fish in a fish tank, so no one's going anywhere.
Are you sure Celeste had no romantic issues? Maybe an ex-boyfriend that wanted to do her harm?
She had a casual thing with someone here a while ago, but
Someone here?
Yeah, someone here.
Do you think this is a game? Do you think that you and I was a game?
Amelie tells Inspector Javel that Dominic and Celeste had been briefly involved a few months ago.
Do I look like a fool to you?
But the whole time they were sleeping together, Celeste had been trying to unseat Dominic as first cello.
Never again!
When Dominic found out, he was furious and broke off the affair.
So you and Celeste had an affair, and when you broke up, you got a bit passionate.
No, yeah, I'm an artist.
An artist with a motive?
How dare you suggest that I could possibly be capable of
She
committing...
wanted your job, Dominic, and she humiliated you, correct?
Yes, but I'll never be capable of committing such a...
We're done now. Don't leave the building.
Sex, ambition, jealousy. It's a classic emotional cocktail of the Molotov variety. Now, normally Dominic would go from first cello to prime suspect, but there's one problem. Everyone knows our hot-headed friend was playing when Celeste went AWOL. He might have given her the heave-ho as a lover and a rival musician, but he didn't kill her and hide her in the utility closet.
24 hours into the investigation, Inspector Javel gets a break.
Well, I was just going out back to get some fresh air, and I saw them talking.
When a violinist claims to have seen Celeste during the intermission, and Celeste wasn't alone.
I didn't really want to get into it, so I just kind of turned around and walked the other direction.
The violinist was probably the last person to see Celeste alive, but there's a problem.
I didn't really get a clear look.
She says she can't remember what the person with Celeste looked like.
Is it a man? Woman?
For cops, memory is both a blessing and a curse. People forget what they see. They second-guess themselves. Their memory fades. It's notoriously unreliable. But in any investigation, witnesses are also crucial. We need to know what they saw as accurately as possible. So sometimes, to get the old memory banks working, you need to try something a little outside the box.
Have you ever been in a hypnotic state?
You're joking, right?
Not in the least. Just keep your eyes on the pen and relax.
Go.
It's you. Just, leave me alone. I need some space here.
Yeah, I can show you the way to the backstage door. Get some real air back there. How about it?
No, that's okay. Just leave me alone, please.
That was weird.
Tell me what you saw.
It was a young guy. He looked like a stagehand.
It's Inspector Javel's first solid lead. If Celeste was last seen with a stagehand, she can now focus her interviews on a specific group of people.
Okay, that's all for now. But don't leave the building.
The coroner's preliminary report is ready, and the results are not what Inspector Javel was expecting. It turns out Celeste was not sexually assaulted, as she had initially assumed. When Inspector Javel was reading the coroner's report, something clicked. When she'd first arrived at the Opera House, she'd taken a mental snapshot of her surroundings and noticed the rigging used ropes tied in a very distinctive knot, the same knot used to tie up Celeste.
This is what we call a major break. A witness thinks she saw Celeste talking to a stagehand. And those knots? You don't see any musicians tying them. It seriously narrows down the suspect pool. Everything in this investigation is now pointing backstage, but that still leaves a lot of people. And our inspector needs more than finger pointing if she's going to make an arrest. What can I do for her?
Inspector Javel interviews the backstage staff one by one, starting with Victor, the stagehand she encountered when she was retracing Celeste's movements during the intermission.
Can you explain to me why you were cleaning up a few feet away from my crime scene?
I hate you, you know that?
Victor tells Inspector Javel that it's normal for the backstage crew to have a few drinks during the performances.
Who cares? No one can hear us back here anyway. So full of themselves, le bourgeois, le musician. You know what? They'd be playing in a park without us. But we make more than them, so who cares, right?
The night of the concert, he was hanging out with his buddy Luke.
Oh, God.
When the police arrived looking for Celeste, Victor didn't want management to find out about their backstage activities, so he tried to clean up the mess.
So you fellows don't exactly hang out with you musicians, I take it.
Hell no. They make less than us, so they resent us. Even if we were making the same money, they'd still look down on us.
And this friend of yours, Luke, what did he get up to after your little refreshment break?
Back to work, I guess. You'd have to ask him.
Fingerprint time. Oh, and next time, you may want to spike your coffee with vodka. It has no smell. Where were you during intermission?
Next on Inspector Javel's list is Victor's friend, Luke.
I was taking a nap by the wardrobe area. Well, so what? Everyone takes a nap there sometimes. Away from the so-called music.
Did you see her?
No, I didn't see what's her name.
Her name was Celeste, and you better get used to it because we're not done talking about her. Did anyone see you napping?
How should I know? I was asleep.
We all know people who mix work with a little pleasure, and though that might be against house rules, it ain't exactly criminal. Nothing wrong with wanting to end your shift on a high note, right? But this stagehand's story is sounding a bit off-key to Inspector Javel. He's a little too, say, cocky for somebody being questioned about a murder, and that gets her attention.
Inspector Javel can't find anyone who saw Luke taking a nap during intermission. In fact, after his drink with Victor, no one can say for sure that they saw him at all during the window of time when Celeste vanished. Inspector Javel has now interviewed everyone who was there the night Celeste was murdered. And when she runs a fingerprint check on the stagehand Luke, she discovers he's been in trouble with the law before.
Assault with a deadly weapon 2 years ago. 7 months in prison. Victim, a woman. On parole. Got a backstage job through a government program.
Luke's fingerprints are on items removed from the crime scene. But far more significantly, the prints on the anonymous love letter given to Celeste are also a match for Luke's.
Miss my company, Inspector?
Inspector Javel now has evidence that connects Luke directly to Celeste.
Does any of this remind you of anything?
So the pothead stagehand with the attitude has left his prints like a trail of breadcrumbs from the love letter to the utility closet. But so what? It's not proof of murder. This is what we call the dreaded circumstantial evidence, and it's the hardest thing to bring to court.
Well, I do work there. You got any DNA proof?
So while it might not look good for Luke, that's all it is, a bad-looking situation, and you can't cuff a guy on bad looks alone. If that were the case, Luke would have been incarcerated long ago. Inspector Javel is going to need some hard proof, or better yet, a confession. And that's when looking bad can work for an investigator. You use the circumstantial evidence to pressure a suspect by shoving that unflattering stuff in his face. And if he can't clean himself up convincingly, Inspector Javel might have a solid case.
You make me want to sing because you're my everything.
I got a kick out of messing with her. Highbrow type.
Very well. But a witness saw you and Celeste together, and no one saw you napping backstage. So where were you?
Napping, like I said. That string player, we work in the same place. Like, none of this amounts to meld.
You seem pretty confident, so I imagine you won't object to me searching your locker.
Look, you can't do that.
Yes, I can. So you like souvenirs, Luke?
Inside Luke's locker, Inspector Javel finds Celeste's hair clip.
I don't know how that got there. That was planted.
We both know how it got there, don't we? You're under arrest for murder.
With unmistakable evidence pointing to Luke as Celeste's murderer,
Celeste.
he knows there's no point denying the crime.
Okay, listen. Look, she had it coming. I just wanted to scare the poop. Those people always treat us like crap.
Keep talking. If you come clean, maybe we'll be able to cut you a deal.
Hey, golden tonsils, Tatois, shut it! I'm rehearsing tonight. Get out.
She was so stuck up. Too sophisticated for someone like me, right?
Luke tells Inspector Javel that Celeste stands for everything he hates in life, especially privilege and snobbery. But he just couldn't resist the way she played music. Luke couldn't bring himself to approach the beautiful and talented Celeste. And as his unrequited love grew, so did his frustration and resentment, until the day came when he decided to teach her a lesson.
Who hasn't fallen for that person who's out of your league? Yeah, it's harsh, but most of us just suck it up and carry on. But some people just can't do that. I've seen this 100 times in my line of work. That unrequited thing that goes from heartache to hatred in a most bloodthirsty way.
It's you. Just leave me alone. I need some space here.
Look, I can show you the way to the backstage door. Get some real air back there.
Yeah.
How about it, huh?
I don't think so. Just go away, please.
We're getting some air. Move. And don't bother screaming. No one can hear you here anyway.
Okay, okay, just don't hurt me.
You like my letters, huh?
You've got to be kidding me. Let me go! Ah! Let me go!
Hold your legs still. Hold them still. I tied this rope.
Luke claims he tied Celeste up to buy himself a bit of time to skip town before she could raise the alarm. It's typical thinking when you're a crook who's gone too far. He says he just wanted to forget Celeste, leave her in the opera house all behind him. But he hadn't counted on the object of his hopeless adoration fighting back.
Oh, yeah.
Shut up!
Luke tried to leave the opera house, but got cut off when Celeste's friend went backstage to look for her.
So, he said we'd cut a deal.
Just be grateful we retired Madame Guillotine a while back.
Luke is sentenced to 35 years in prison for second-degree murder.
What the hell? No deal?
Take it from me, you can't count on mercy just because you fessed up to the deed. Murder will always be murder, and giving it up is no guarantee justice will go easy on you. Luke is going to be singing to himself for the rest of his days.
Despite the tragedy, the show must go on, just as Celeste would have wanted. The orchestra plays a moving tribute concert in her memory.
They say music is the gateway to the soul, and even a punk like Luke has one of those. But he fell for the kind of gal he knew would never have anything to do with him, and instead of staying in the wings, he took on the starring role as the villain in a tragedy. Murder has to begin sometime, and those harmonious strains from Celeste's cello planted the seed of discord in our tone-deaf killer. Love can drive anyone crazy, and when you know it's hopeless, it can drive you and the object of your affection right over the edge. But thankfully for everyone, our backstage killer won't be getting an encore anytime soon.
Events in this program are inspired by a true story. Names, dates, and details have been changed. Viewer discretion is advised. On this episode of Bizarre Murders, it's Floyd's first ever hunting trip with his wife Debbie, a lifelong deer hunter and gun enthusiast. But even the most experienced hunters can't always prevent a tragic turn of events.
Oh, God, my husband.
It looks like a terrible accident, until a keen-eyed investigator discovers things are not as they appear to be.
State police, stand down!
Get out of here, lawman.
But with hunting season in full swing and more guns in the woods than you can count,
You take me for some slack-jawed idiot?
will he be able to track down the killer? Or will someone get away with the perfect crime? It's deer season in western Arkansas, and hunters from all over the state are looking to bag a high-point buck before winter sets in.
Help! Somebody help! Somebody! Please!
Hang on there, Missy! Zeke's on his way!
You've got to get help. Please, hurry.
Oh, yes, ma'am. There, I'm faster than grease lightning there.
Zeke heads to the nearest park ranger station 5 miles away.
There's a lot of hunters in my family, and I can tell you that out in the woods, there's always a risk that the wrong animal is going to get shot. When I was at the Bureau, we learned that when it comes to guns, all the safety precautions in the world can't stop a stray bullet once it's on its way. And this looks like one of those sad situations.
My husband, Floyd. This was our first hunting trip together. He had never even been hunting before. This is terrible.
Honey, I'm home.
Hi, baby. I was just polishing my hand cannon, sweetie. Grandpappy's 6-point buck.
Floyd and Debbie have been married for a year. Debbie works as a kindergarten teacher. And Floyd makes a good living as an actuary in the insurance industry.
I'm telling you, you ought to come hunting with your old lady someday.
I don't know, honey. You know I'm not one for the great outdoors.
Well, you think it over, sweet pea. Maybe someday you'll have a trophy on the wall.
Honey, I have a trophy now.
Aw. This cake is amazing. I love
Happy
this.
birthday, baby.
Oh my God, you got this for me.
I did.
It's Debbie's second serious relationship. Before she met Floyd, she lived with a woman named Carol, a pastry chef who specializes in fancy wedding cakes. They bonded over a shared love of hunting and camping and would take frequent trips into the wilderness. The opening week of deer season was the highlight of their year. But it doesn't take long for Debbie to grow restless. She thinks she deserves more out of life than teaching little kids their ABCs. She knows that staying with a pastry chef is a dead end if she wants to live the good life. So Debbie starts looking for some company with more cash in the bank.
I can't live like this anymore.
What, you thought I'd never smelled the gunpowder?
That's just like you with
But Carol finds out Debbie's been looking for a sugar mama
I'll do what I want.
I cannot
Don't
believe
leave back.
you.
You know
This is
what?
so like
I'm
you.
getting out of here.
and sends her packing.
Get out of my way.
You'd hope Debbie has learned her lesson and maybe stopped seeing people as a means to an end. But from where I'm standing, Debbie's what you'd call a narcissist. That's the short way of saying she thinks she's superior and entitled to whatever she wants, no matter what. So getting the boot from her girlfriend only makes Debbie more determined to get a sugar mama or a sugar daddy.
One night, Debbie sizes up Floyd, who's just moved from New England to take a position at a blue-chip firm. It's his job to calculate insurance premiums.
Not the most exciting line of work, but hey, it pays well. Now, Floyd is one of those reserved guys they used to call a confirmed bachelor. You know the type. No wife, doesn't date, keeps to himself, avoids talking about his job because it puts people to sleep. But to Debbie, he's the perfect mark. He's got money, and guys like him are desperate. Let's just say easily smitten.
After a whirlwind romance, Floyd and Debbie tie the knot. And they quickly settle into a harmonious routine.
But it's not even my birthday.
Who cares, honey? I know how much you love sparkly things.
It's got bling on it. I'm gonna show this off tonight at the gun range. You wanna come back?
Love to, but tonight's book club with the guys.
Well, okay. One day you're gonna see what a great shot your gal is, especially dolled up like this. Don't read too hard now.
It's a year into their marriage, and Debbie is becoming bored with domestic life.
Floydie, I think I need a 9mm.
Another one?
Yeah, one of the ones that comes in pink.
Well, okay, honey. My card's on the table. Take the Beamer if you want to.
And Floyd is more interested in making money than having fun with it. So Debbie tries to spice things up between them.
You know what, baby? I have an idea. Why don't you and me go hunting? I haven't been out to the woods since we've been married, and it's deer season real soon. What do you say? It'll be exciting. You've never been hunting before.
Okay, honey. If it'll make you happy, let's go.
The state police are called in to conduct a routine autopsy on Floyd. They learn he was shot in the head with a Remington 7mm, a popular make of bullet. And they're working on the assumption it's an accident, until they make an unexpected discovery.
What in the Sam Hill?
After extracting the fatal bullet from Floyd's head, they notice on Floyd's shoulder there's a second wound, a distinctive graze that could only have been caused by another bullet, almost certainly a 7mm round, like the one that killed him.
One to the head from a rifle round, okay. Some hunter must have mistaken Floyd for a deer. It can be pretty hard to see clearly out in the bush, even with those orange vests. But that graze wound, it means that someone took a first shot at Floyd and missed, and then got him on the second try. It was open season on the guy. So this ain't no hunting accident, folks. This is a homicide.
Now that Floyd's death has been ruled a homicide, the first person State Investigator Lieutenant Barnabas wants to question is his wife, Debbie.
Murdered? My little Floydie? I can't believe it.
You know if anyone want to put the hurt on your husband, ma'am? He have any enemies?
Maybe someone from that office of his. They ain't the hunting type, if you catch my meaning.
Okay, looky here. I'm collecting evidence from everyone that was into the area. I'm gonna need your jacket, your clothes, your bullets, and your guns.
It's common knowledge in a murder investigation like this, the spouse is always your first person of interest. But our lieutenant has no reason to detain Debbie, and there were plenty of other people in the bush that day. It's a big chunk of nature. So before he can put the screws to Debbie, he has to check out the crime scene for himself and figure out who else was in them nar woods.
Mighty fine day for looking for evidence.
To prove Floyd was shot at twice, Barnabas needs to find the missing bullet that caused the graze wound on Floyd's shoulder.
Working a crime scene in, say, someone's apartment is one thing. But imagine now when your crime scene is a square acre of trees, wild animals, and poison ivy. Good luck dusting for prints. And finding a spent round out there, you'd think it makes finding a needle in a haystack hassle-free. But our lieutenant's a hunting man himself, and he knows exactly what to look for. 'Cause bullets can leave their own kind of fingerprints.
I got something here for ballistics.
The slug is compressed from the impact into the tree, but Lieutenant Barnabas recognizes it as a 7mm bullet.
Now that's the same caliber that took out Floyd, and let me tell you, a 7mm like this is a lot of bullet. Not too many hunters use it. I mean, you want something left of your animal, but even so, anyone could have fired that round. So our lieutenant now has to run a ballistics test to see if it came from the same gun used to shoot poor old Floyd.
Because there are only so many hunters in the vicinity, narrowing down where the shot came from could narrow down his suspect pool.
State police, stand down!
Get out of here, lawman. Leave me be.
Just take her easy, ma'am. Don't get your britches in a bunch. Drop your weapon, or you'll be having a short conversation with my girlfriend, Peggy Peacemaker here. Go on. Good girl. I'm investigating the shooting of a man who was camped about a mile yonder with his wife.
Oh, is he okay?
Does he look okay to you, ma'am? And this here's a picture of his wife. I found it in his wallet.
Wait a minute. That's Debbie.
Are you saying you know this woman?
I could say I knew Debbie. At least I used to.
Sounds like she did you wrong.
That's putting it kindly.
Carol fills Lieutenant Barnabas in on her past relationship with Debbie. She says she's heard about Floyd, but had never met him. And she claims she's had no contact with Debbie at all since the breakup.
Makes sense they'd be in the area.
Well, that's one hell of a coincidence. Carol's clearly still holding a grudge against her ex. and she's camped out less than a mile from where Debbie's new husband got shot. That's the kind of thing we pay attention to.
Carol explains she isn't surprised Debbie was nearby. They'd always come to this area to hunt together during the opening week of deer season.
Our lieutenant might not have himself an out-and-out suspect, but a person of interest, yes, sir. I mean, I'd be pretty sore, too, if my gal tried cheating on me and then, when that didn't work out, got married to a guy on Easy Street. So motive? Check. She's also been camped out less than a mile from where Floyd got shot. Opportunity? Check. And that pea shooter she's waving around? Well, that could well be the murder weapon.
Serious hunter like yourself? Only have one rifle?
My only other one.
But when Lieutenant Barnabas inspects Carol's rifle, he realizes right away that this make of gun doesn't take 7mm rounds. It can't be the murder weapon.
Mind if I have a little look-see in the tent? Right. Well, now. What do we have here?
Carol explains that her spare rifle was a Remington that was too powerful for some smaller deer, so she just had it as a backup. And she claims that 2 days ago, the day before Floyd got shot, someone stole the Remington and some bullets, and those were 7mm.
Where were you the day Floyd got shot?
The Rainer Station reporting theft. Wasn't even in the area.
Even if our survivalist sister had both motive and opportunity in spades, she didn't pull the trigger. Looks like it's back to square one for our lieutenant. He knows there's a stolen gun out there and a victim with no apparent enemies. And to me, that brings up a very scary possibility. There could be a thrill killer on the loose, waiting to strike again.
Hoping to narrow down the suspect pool, Lieutenant Barnabas checks the campsite booking records for the season. He finds that Debbie had a site booked on the day of the murder under Floyd's corporate credit card, which is potentially illegal. Lieutenant Barnabas decides it's time to have a closer look at our bereaved widow, and for 3 weeks, surveils Debbie.
Suspect's on her third bourbon sour.
He learns that not only has she sold off Floyd's house, she's quit her teaching job and is spending her days and nights partying off the property sale.
It's true, we all grieve in our own way. As an investigator, I've seen some pretty unexpected responses to losing a spouse to murder. But I also know that there are telltale signs of relief when your husband or wife suddenly goes to the happy hunting grounds. Suspicious signs. And Debbie, well, she doesn't seem exactly torn up that Floyd's first deer hunt was also his last.
Disrespect of it all.
But it still doesn't make sense for Debbie to whack the guy who paid to keep her in clothes and diamonds. Or does it?
Sole beneficiary, you say? Bugging you for the payout before my case is even closed? Well, how about that? Thank you kindly, partner.
Lieutenant Barnabas learns that Floyd had not one, but 2 insurance policies, amounting to a couple million, and Debbie is pushing to cash them in.
Now that's what I reckon to be a motive.
But there's no proof Debbie had anything to do with Floyd's murder. It's all circumstantial. To build a case against Debbie, Lieutenant Barnabas needs physical evidence. But when the forensic report comes in, the ballistics aren't a match for Debbie's rifle. But then, something catches his eye. The forensic report noted that the mud on Debbie's hunting jacket is not native to this region of Arkansas. It's a type of red clay that's brought in to reinforce man-made drinking holes frequented by the deer herds.
Remember how tough an outdoor crime scene can be? Well, to help us out here, we use newfangled, cutting-edge kind of analysis we call forensic geology. Basically, you use the terrain itself as a source of evidence, and in the deep woods, you get a lot of terrain.
Using the forensic report's insight into the unique red clay, Lieutenant Barnabas again follows the bullet's trajectory, this time looking for signs of the telltale clay.
Sure enough, there's a direct trajectory from the drinking hole to the bullet hole. It's all pretty cool forensic science. That red clay is used in very specific places in this area, so the fact that it's all over Debbie's jacket places her right at the scene. But unfortunately, it misses the mark as far as proof goes. Anyone could have fired at Floyd from that spot. But the good news is, it is enough to put a little heat on our grieving widow, Debbie.
Well, thank you kindly, ma'am, for coming down today.
Now that he has a convincing scenario pointing to Debbie as the shooter, Lieutenant Barnabas brings her back in for questioning.
I think you got a little old friend there that likes to hunt in the same parts you do. Name of Carol, ain't it?
Sure. We used to come up here together a lot, but I haven't seen her in a while.
I got something for you. Now, how's your geology, ma'am? Why don't we go stretch the old legs a little bit, get some fresh air? Come on now.
Lead the way, Lieutenant.
Lieutenant Barnabas takes Debbie to the clearing where Floyd was shot, hoping to gauge her reaction.
Lieutenant Barnabas knows that sometimes the bad guys don't return to the scene of the crime, so you just gotta take them there yourself. It's a great investigative trick. If your suspect knows that you know what happened, they can get stuck like a deer in the headlights of the law, and that means they start talking, although it might take some persuading.
What are we doing here?
See that bullet hole here? Great. Just go over there, 100 yards. Walk that way.
Next, he takes Debbie to the watering hole, where he thinks the shot that killed Floyd came from.
This place look familiar to you at all? Well, maybe this photograph would jog your noggin.
Lieutenant, I have no idea what this is all about. Why are we in the woods?
Well, I got me a little itty-bitty theory about what happened to your Floyd.
Lieutenant Barnabas tells Debbie he thinks she snuck into Carol's campsite at the break of dawn on the day Floyd was killed. She knew her ex-girlfriend would be at her usual camping spot for the opening of deer season and stole her gun to commit the murder.
That's ridiculous.
Man, you take me for some slack-jawed idiot? I know you done it. You're lying right here with your ex-girlfriend's firearm.
Well, that's a pretty wild tale, Lieutenant. And where's your proof?
You think you can outsmart the law, Missy? And finally, this here red clay is only found at this watering hole. This watering hole's the only one for miles. I might as well add that it's also a fine place to scope out some prey.
Okay, you win. But you gotta understand, you see, Floyd was fixing for a divorce.
Debbie tells Lieutenant Barnabas that Floyd was fed up with her extravagant spending.
Call your mother and ask if we can borrow some money.
Even a love-struck guy like Floyd has a limit, especially when your whole job is about putting a monetary value on things. He just couldn't keep paying out forever. Sure, at first he hadn't minded. In fact, he liked dolling up his gorgeous wife. But as time went by, he started feeling used. Who wouldn't? And that's when Floyd started talking about separating.
With Floyd threatening divorce, Debbie is forced to rethink her prospects. She had to come up with a plan B.
Debbie knew that Floyd was her personal goose with the golden eggs. I mean, wasn't that the whole idea in the first place? If they got divorced, she'd have to go back to being a mere kindergarten teacher with champagne tastes on a beer budget. Not to mention having to, and pardon the pun, shell out for all that ammo at the gun range. Just because you can buy bullets at Walmart doesn't make them cheap. But Floyd's life insurance means those golden eggs could be laid from the afterlife, as long as he dies in an accident.
So Debbie suggested they go on a hunting trip to patch things up. After stealing Carol's rifle, Debbie picked out the perfect spot to shoot Floyd.
You know, even I have to admit it was a good plan as far as first-degree murder goes. If for some reason the authorities didn't think it was an accident, Debbie had a ready-made patsy in Carol because Carol's gun could be tied to Floyd's death. Either way, she'd be walking away a wealthy woman. But Debbie hadn't counted on something. Unlike Debbie, hubby Floyd was a total klutz in the woods, and that would literally trip her up.
Debbie told Floyd to wait in the clearing while she flushed out the deer from the woods.
Oh! Don't shoot, I'm not a deer! Don't shoot!
Floyd was a fool. You can't just groom a filly like me and leave her out to pasture. I had to do it. I needed that money. I deserved that money.
Thought you hatched a pretty perfect plan, did ya?
I did have a perfect plan. If that idiot hadn't have tripped, I wouldn't have missed on the first shot. People would have thought it was an accident.
Well, that's about the size of it. Ma'am, you're under arrest.
Debbie tells Lieutenant Barnabas where to find the murder weapon, Carol's rifle. The ballistics from the gun and Debbie's confession put her behind bars for life with no chance of parole.
It all came down to mud. Well, I'll be damned.
Learn something new every day.
Crooks the world over dream of committing the perfect crime, but I'm here to tell you there's no such thing. That said, Debbie came pretty close. It was an ideal setting to stage an accident that was actually a murder. It's deer season. Bullets are flying everywhere. A ready-made fall gal in the ex-girlfriend, but her own setting gave Debbie away, thanks to some forensic science and a determined lawman. So next time when you're aiming to whack someone, just remember, when you're caught, and we will catch you, you're gonna have to bite the bullet we call hard time.